welcome to the Tuesday, December 8th, 2015 meeting of the Blanc Township and our Committee of the Whole. And therefore, I'd like to call this meeting to order with the approval of the, I'd like to call it to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like to move ahead into approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is approved as published. And now we go forward to public comment. Anybody wish to participate in public comment? No? Okay. In that case, we will move on to our Parks and Recreation Director, Ms. Kay Edson.
Does everybody know Jamie, our Assistant Director, Jamie Weasel? Who's going to run the PowerPoint while I stumble through the presentation.
Good. Do you want Carol to turn down the lights? Okay.
That might be helpful.
Carol, would you turn?
Nobody knows which one you are. Just
Yes.
one of these days we're gonna lay
Switches.
And one of those
Yeah.
Whoa!
a little bit better.
No, one on, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for having us here tonight and for the opportunity to present our proposal. We believe it's an important one, a vital one really, to a real gem in our community. We also think it's important to demonstrate to our residents, as well as the outside developers and investors that are interested in coming to our community, that we take pride in our community and in our parks and in our facilities. In the spring of 2016, Creasy Bicentennial Park will celebrate 38 years of providing multi-generational recreation opportunities to the residents of Grand Blanc, Genesee County, and beyond. What this means is that the facilities within the park are aging and deteriorating. In 1970, when the Parks and Recreation Commission was formed by the leaders of the township, the city, and the schools, they had a great vision of what recreation could be in our community. Generations of Grand Blanc families have enjoyed ball games, picnics, family reunions, walking the trails, and other activities and amenities in the park. To ensure that our current and future residents have that same opportunity and experience, we need to upgrade and renovate these areas of need. While great consideration was given to what was needed to provide activities, programs, and events back in 1970, what wasn't given full consideration was the funding of capital projects, and now, most importantly, the maintenance and upkeep of our facilities and equipment. Thus, we are at a point of rapidly growing problems at the park. The original development started in 1978, and that included the access road, a 100-car parking lot, 8 tennis courts, 4 softball fields, and 4 sets of bleachers at those fields. The original large pavilion came 4 years later in 1982. The 8 tennis courts have been converted over time. The first 4 were converted to an inline skating area and 2 basketball courts in 1997. The remaining 4 were converted to 4 sand volleyball courts in 2011. It's the inline skating area and the basketball courts that are the most serious problem of deterioration. The inline skating area has been closed for 2 seasons already, and the basketball courts will have to be closed in this upcoming year if we do not find the funds to repair them. What's particularly disturbing about these 2 areas is that they are the most popular with our highest at-risk age group, the middle school and high school teens. When we have decent weather out there, Daily after school, there are kids out playing basketball and we're using the inline skating area. And when school is not in session, you can often find kids out playing. As we all know, this is an extremely difficult group to program for. And so when we find something that they're willing to participate and actively be involved in, I think it behooves us to realize the importance of this and do everything that we can to provide a continuing opportunity for this activity. Moving on to the original pavilion, which will be 34 years old this spring. We have cracks and holes throughout the flooring. And those cracks have only grown worse steadily over the last 5 years. The bathrooms and kitchen are also severely outdated and in need of upgrade. This pavilion gets extreme use. In 2015 alone, we had 92 reservations. So it's getting a lot of use, but it's also showing wear and tear. Moving down to the softball fields, the backstops are bent and rusted. We also have the fencing in the outfields that have some holes that we are just not able to patch any longer, and there'll be sections that are in need of replacement. The original bleachers are still in place, and that framework is showing deterioration as well. Other areas throughout the park that are in need of upgrades include the splash pad floor surfacing. If you remember when we first opened this, we had a lot of problems with slip and falls, so we installed this surfacing, and they're rubber tiles that fit together. Over the years, from the extreme heat and the extreme cold, they contracted, expanded, and we've tried to retrofit them by adjusting them and cutting different holes to fit over the spray elements, but we're about to the end of that possibility now. The original playscape on the south side of the park also has surfacing that has some issues. They're starting to separate a little bit and would be in need of some repairs. Finally, our pole barn, where we store our equipment and our maintenance crew works out of, has a leaking roof and no insulation or heat. The new walking and biking trail that was built 3 or 4 years ago, has been a great addition to the park and even outside the boundaries of the park. It gets tremendous amount of use. But as you can see, it is already starting to crack, and we need to put a system in place to maintain that path. The list goes on, and will continue to grow each and every year. Included in your packet is the list of projects we have developed thus far with the pricing component. The other area of our great concern is our equipment. It too is old. We have 2 pickup trucks. One is a 2008 and one is a 1999, which is truly on its last leg. This truck has served many purposes for us throughout its 16-year life. One of the main ones has been snow plowing. Snow plows at the park, we snow plow at the senior center, and we snow plow at our administrative offices. And 16 years of snow plowing has taken its toll. Our guys get real excited when it starts and runs every day. You know, it's the little things. We have 2 field draggers that are used just about daily from mid-April through August, and then also some weekends in September to drag 10 fields. Those 2 are a 1985 model and a 1994 model. Both were purchased used and had their engines rebuilt multiple times. In addition, for well over a year, the Commission has been discussing the need for a security camera system throughout the park. We do have a fair amount of vandalism, 4 significant occasions to date this year. In addition, we have a lot of people who are in and out of the park. On any given night in the summer when Little League Baseball is playing, the park is packed. When we have host tournaments on weekends, the park is packed. The adults who are in attendance often get distracted by what's happening on the field when their son or daughter is engaged in the game. What else is happening is there are lots of little children that are wandering around, not always the best supervised. So it would be our hope that we could be able to provide as much protection and information if something unfortunate did happen at the park. All of these items, and more will come up and be added to the list, need our attention to keep Creasy Bicentennial Park in the condition it should be in. This community has been labeled as a premier community. Unfortunately, one of the gems of our community is no longer in premier condition, and we do not have the resources to get it back to that state. As all you know, we host a lot of tournaments, use our fields to host tournaments 2 years ago, the director of the largest tournament, which averages between 90 and 100 teams, and then also brings another tournament in the fall, threatened to pull the tournaments out of Grand Blanc if we didn't make some upgrades. So effectively what we did is we took some of the proceeds that we were going to recognize out of the tournament and made the upgrades he requested in order to keep those tournaments here. We want to continue to attract tournaments and events at the park, not only for the economic value that it has to us, but for what it has to the Grand Blanc community and Genesee County as a whole. When these families come in for the weekend, on average they spend $300 to $500 on the weekend over hotels, food, gas, shopping, and entertainment. In 2015, the tournaments that we hosted at Bicentennial Park brought in 300 teams with an average of 12 to 14 kids per team. That's 3,600 families who came into our community and spent dollars in our businesses. At this time, we are requesting a 0.25 millage be placed on the ballot for 10 years in the township only. The reason it being for the township only is in 1996, city residents passed a 1.0 millage for recreation while township residents turned it down. There is still approximately $600,000 left of those funds collected in the city. And we do have an agreement to spend those funds just in the city, just as we would only spend these funds in the township. Today, our list that we have presented you has approximately $1 million in proposed expenditures. As I stated previously, that list will grow, especially over the next 10 years. Depending on what maintenance projects come forward, some of those funds could also be used as matching funds to successful grants to complete some of the remaining development projects in our master plan. Residents have shown support for the park. They have participated in numerous fundraisers, made donations to make grant funding go further and develop a variety of projects in the park. We have partnered with numerous community organizations, Little League, AYSO, Grand Blanc Youth Football, Grand Blanc Schools, and the Water and Woods Boy Scout Council to fundraise, make improvements, and program in the park. The commission and staff has deliberated for some time on how much to ask for in this millage. We do want to keep it as affordable as possible for the residents, yet we do want to generate enough money to make sure all the things that need attention are taken care of. As you can see by this slide, showing the breakdown for estimated costs for homeowners, we do not believe this is an outrageous ask for what it can accomplish in our community. So in conclusion, yes, I'm finally there. Our ask is twofold tonight. One, first and most important, is to place this issue on the ballot for March 8th, 2016. Again, it's 0.25 millage for 10 years. And secondly, we ask for your support in bringing this to a successful campaign. Can I answer any questions?
Go ahead.
All right, Chris?
Do you want to go ahead
Do you
first?
want to go ahead?
Okay, anyway. First off, I support the parks, and I would just assume we allocate the money out of our general fund for the parks for maintenance. But, so, these trucks that are used, are they, I mean, are they plowing things in the city also? And is the city paying their portion for that truck, or is this just something?
Well, in our general fund, the city and township appropriations, everything comes together and is just brought together through the budget. We plow the senior citizen center, which is in the city, and we plow our building.
Which is in the city.
Correct.
Right. So, so should some of that money, maybe that 600,000 that they have, should you dedicate some of that for that, or am I not looking at that correctly?
Well, I guess that's a possibility, Jude. We've always looked at it as just part of our general operations, and again, as the budget just comes together, we've operated out of what we have.
Yeah, and
I understand.
yeah, I mean, I wanna give you guys money. I really do, because I like the
And we're
parks.
willing to take it.
And I'm willing, I would vote to give you some right now. But, you know, when I'm looking at that, and don't we maintain some ball diamonds in the city? Isn't there?
We do come in and prepare some ball diamonds for Little League when they play at the varsity diamonds. We do that, but they pay us to do that.
The leagues.
That
The
Little League
league
pays us to do that.
Okay. So I guess so, I was looking at the draggers and the trucks. I mean, the diamonds that we use are in the township then, all, correct?
Correct. Well, I mean, outside of the two that are on school property.
That we get paid. We don't maintain, we don't do anything for them, but drag them, we do no maintenance, correct?
Correct. Drag and line.
Okay.
All right, okay.
I just had one question. You said that the city has approximately 600,000. Have you used any of that money yet?
When the millage first passed, we did use a little bit of it,
Right.
and then most of that money then was used to develop positions in Russ Park. We do use some of it to put on the concert series in the summer, which we've done for a long time.
Right. So you have used a little bit of it?
Yes.
But not any big?
Nothing substantial.
Interject on this, but just so everybody here is aware, the city portion, there was a millage on the ballot, I don't remember the exact years before my time,
96.
I think it was 1996, for Parks and Recreation to fund this type of stuff. The
For the
millage
city?
passed in the city,
For the
and the
city.
millage failed in the township. Well, it was in both, but it
Okay.
wasn't tied together.
All right.
So because it passed in the city's collected it from city residents, and the city has, like we would also said, fine, this money is city residents' money, it goes to the city parks. So that's how that happened.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just trying to figure out how much money they've spent so far, and they haven't spent anything on capital improvements. It's just a little bit of maintenance.
Oh, no, they did. They built both restroom buildings in both positions in Russ. They built the gazebo in positions. They did the walking path in positions. They put in both playscapes. Also at Russ Park, they renovated the tennis courts and basketball courts. And then they also extended a walking path at Russ Park.
Okay.
So they've done quite a bit of
I
capital.
thought they did, but I didn't know how much of it was,
They
was
spent they spent about $600,000 on those two parks.
Okay, great. Okay.
Clark?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. The city millage was for capital improvement, right? They have not used that for any rolling stock or any of the equipment and trucks and stuff that Mr. Reardon was referring to.
No,
Now, so then with that, then is it the intent of this millage to then replace, I see you have equipment in the list here.
yes.
Is that to be replaced out of that quarter mil? So therefore, it's kind of a different standard then, because we would be collecting, the city collects money for capital only, improvements, and now in this township, we would be asking for a millage that would be both capital and for equipment and maintenance. So what I'm asking is there a clarification on that, so we can tell the residents, no, that, that's only for capital improvement out at Byside Park or any township facilities, and then the stock or the machinery and equipment then would be expected to come out of your operational budget. I know that sounds like kind of a double talk, but it's kind of what's going on with that city money. You don't buy any trucks or equipment or any repair types things. But you do make improvements to the parks and upkeep and obviously some new construction. So I guess that's what I want to know is what is the intent with this quarter mill? Would it be treated any different than the city's millage?
That was really long and involved part.
I know, but I can't, I can't be sure.
Yeah. Well, what we want to do is maintain the facilities that we have, take care of them because they are in disrepair.
Yes.
We also want to maintain our equipment or upgrade our equipment because it's in bad shape. We also, if there is money available, we would like to we have some other projects still in the park that we would like to develop, and we could use some funds as matching funds for those projects.
So it sounds like it would be used for both.
Madam Chair, can I add a point? You have a proposed resolution in your packet, and the way that resolution is written is that the purpose of this money is to purchase, repair, and maintenance of recreational equipment and facilities. Now, you wrote most of that language. We tweaked it back and forth, but What I was thinking when I read that and we wrote part of it is that it's specifically meant for, again, purchase, repair, and maintenance of recreational equipment. We added facilities, but I'm still thinking in my head that's recreational facilities,
Yes.
right? I'm not thinking it's trucks, I'm not thinking it's lawnmowers, I'm not thinking recreational equipment.
Our intent was, equipment also to help maintain the park.
Okay, well then, I'm glad we're having this.
Well, yeah, with that, then what I would like to see possibly, Kate, then is, I can understand the city's position on that, being that with a levy from the city, to only use it for things such as the facilities, right? But maybe if this were to pass in the township, there could be some type of a joint agreement that they would release, sort of a match, I don't know, whatever that would be, if they know that we're gonna be purchasing equipment to maintain the facilities, maybe they would be able to release a matching amount or something like that, you know what I mean? Maybe it's overcomplicating this thing, I don't know. Okay.
Yes, Scott?
All the lottery money goes to the schools too. I think, Kate, great presentation.
Yes.
And I think you've got a really challenging job with trying to get the interest of two different groups, meshed together. And when you're dealing with budgets, that same thing, comes into play. And I think one of the things I'd like to see is the budget, but not necessarily for scrutinizing it, but to see that little bit of that interplay of what, are most of these things then on the list, they aren't new really, they're replacement and maintenance of what we
The
have.
majority is repair and maintenance, yes.
Right. Is there money budgeted for those things currently, for any of those things on the list? Are we,
We have an equipment fund
okay,
that we created several years ago, but we don't have a huge contribution to it each year. And right now, we are paying off a pretty good sized mower that we got to take care of some of the soccer fields and stuff.
and I realize, the amount that we're looking for per household is minimal compared to what we need to have a great park system. I just want to make sure that I can justify it to our citizenry. One of the things I notice in here is for the dog park, there's, a couple grand that's allocated for replacement of turf or whatever. They do collect a fee for the use of the park, right? Of the dog park
Yes.
area? Does that do some of the same things, or do we need something above?
We have used some of that. We closed the park for a few weeks last spring because the turf hadn't taken real well, and so we tried to
Sure.
boost it up a little bit. And we are setting aside $5 per registration for future repairs, because I anticipate that the agility equipment is not going to have a real long life.
Okay.
So we have to have some plan in
Sure.
place for that.
Yeah, I would be in favor of looking at even how do we grow the sports activities in Grand Blanc to become a destination for sports activities. And I just want to make sure that I can justify to people that may ask me that are opposed to it, just to justify where we stand, that I know where the money's going.
Just what she said on, one of the things was just what she said about bringing the teams in to use our businesses.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. Quick comment on that. A couple of people commented on the city and the equipment and stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, this might have changed, but the last time I knew, this goes back to, in the two city parks, and I've been in the parks in the evening and stuff when this happened. In Physicians Park and Russ Park, city DPW trucks come in, empty the garbage, lock up the gates. City DPW trucks come in and do little, bathroom checks and maintenance and stuff like that.
They maintain those parks.
Right,
They
with
mow,
city
they
equipment.
do everything.
So what we're looking at here is primarily for bicentennial park, period. We're not taking this truck out and plowing Physicians Park with the exception of maybe once in a great while in the wintertime when we have enough ice to skate on. Other than that,
Well, doesn't the city do that, though? I think they do that too, don't
The plowing on Physicians Park? Yes.
oh, the city
I
does
mean,
that too.
if-
So,
Yeah. If
so
they-
basically it's equipment, but it's
They were in a
for
bind and they called us, we
township
would-
property. It's not for city property.
Well,
The
it's
city's-
township level.
It's in the city.
No, our, license.
Oh, bicentennial?
Because,
Well, they did several years ago, but with the amount of roads they have to, and miles they have to plow, we
Takes
were
a
kind of
while.
low on the totem pole.
It was
Right.
We
So-
got a
week
big
after
answer now.
Especially if it was
He's really
a,
on the ball.
I know, he's the best.
Can I say something?
Second or third day, I'm thinking.
Yes, go ahead.
So we took over just plowing the park.
All right.
You know how they say a picture's worth 1,000 words? I am very appalled that the parks look that bad, really appalled. And I'm curious as to how it ever came to be that bad. And I'm thinking that maybe this should be double what it is, because I don't think we should ever be in that position to have to close down the main features of the park, ever.
I don't disagree with you, Chris. It's just that we were never set up with anything other than operational funds. And so it takes everything that we have to operate our department.
Right, here's gonna cover this year's 12 months of next operating costs, here's your budget, and pretty much what we got.
It should never have got that bad. It shouldn't have. I mean, I don't know who the park commission actually consists of every year, and if they should have come and asked for more
They
money or
have,
what.
they did in
But,
1996.
did they, 1996?
Yeah, the village fair.
Almost 10 years ago.
I think every year they've asked for more money.
And every year it's kind of hard to get money.
Right.
And that's why I'm thinking, I would like to see you personally go for more money. The parks are important to people. They're important to all the citizens at some point in their life, whether they're young or old or the middle-aged kids. And I think a good park is very, very, very important to a township. And I don't like to see it looking as bad as it looked ever.
I agree with you on all those points.
So I think we should think about doing this, but I think we should think about making it a half a mil.
Well, I think that we can accomplish a lot with the quarter mil, and I think it's doable. I think if we reach for too much,
Can you expand with the quarter mil?
I think we can.
About 10 years.
I mean, it just kind of depends what happens over the next 10 years, but I think that we will be able
Pavilion
to.
isn't gonna satisfy most of the people here. It might be good Well, for the then we people that shouldn't- need we shouldn't have it. built It might it. be good for the people that need a pavilion, but it's not gonna be good for the
I mean,
kids that wanna
we
play basketball.
debated, we didn't write this up in 5 minutes. We debated this for a long time at the township, or excuse me, at the Parks and Rec Commission. And our thoughts are, we want to present a millage to the voters that we believe we can get passed. And I'd love to get a half mil, I'd love to get 1 mil. The money, we could use it all, but we gotta put together a plan and present it.
So Madam Chair, let's just look at the numbers here. What are we looking at that we generate with the first year of this millage?
Is it
290,000.
What is the budget, the township portion of the budget for the Parks and Rec, would you say?
170?
I thought it was 160. but-
So we're going from 160 to adding an additional
Mhm.
290,000 on top of it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna more than double,
Yeah.
almost, 2 times.
Right.
But we're
And so-
making major repairs.
Well, once this list of repairs though, I don't know, what's the total on that list?
It's about $1 million right now.
Okay, so it'll take us a few years to get all those done then.
Right.
Take us 4 years if we, if we use the millage each year, 290,000.
Well, we've also
Make
been
these.
considering exploring bonds, so we could, have more money up front and accomplish more quickly.
But let's say that we still have 6 more years left on the bond. All these repairs hopefully last more than
Yeah.
a few years.
Right. But other things will come up too.
Yeah.
It's 159,000 out of the township general levy, or general corporation.
Right now, we're
So,
seeing.
so you add 300,000, it'd be tripling their budget
Right.
from the
Right.
township's perspective, but I do agree that
You could see where,
absolutely, it's- and Larry, thanks for clearing that up on, at least if the residents ask, like Scott said, we'll be able to explain that, the equipment piece of this thing, because
Right.
I don't know how many people are up on that, how astute they are on it, but trust me, that millage went down in the township for a reason. Maybe it was because they were asking for too much, as you just have stated, so maybe the quarter mil and do it over a little bit of time is the best way to go, so.
Can I ask another question? Do you know what else was on that ballot? And that millage
Well-
was on there. I mean, sometimes there's 10 millages, and sometimes you just check no because you've checked 5 yeses.
Originally, we went
Not
for the
me.
millage in August, and at that time, it was tied, it had to pass in both municipalities. And it passed in the city and was defeated in the township by like 83 votes. And so, the next time we went in November, and I don't think there was a lot on it in August, to answer your question, Chris. So the next time when it was at a presidential election,
Mhm.
and at that time, the ballot language stated that it could pass independently, and it did. And I don't recall how badly it was defeated in the township, but obviously it was.
Yes, Earl?
And Kate has listed the equipment right in here. She's listing trucks, snow plows, the field dragging, U-turns, and the mowers. So the equipment is in there, it's been in there, and that's part of her overall budget that she's trying to fund with this. So, and like she said, the majority of that is for all those baseball fields. I mean, I've been on those fields with my
And
kids.
soccer.
That place is huge, you know, between the soccer, everything that you have out there, you have to have this type of equipment to mow all. And we're not knowing it. And it's nice to know that we brought up that the city's mowing, Russ Park, and they're mowing the other one, and they're plowing the other one. So they're using their money, so we've got to take care of our part. So.
Jude?
Well, I'd like to see the city, I mean, I looked at this as a collaborative effort, the parks. And I'm all for, spending the city's money, in the city, most of it. But my guess is that there's a lot of city residents that use Bicentennial Park. There's a lot of families that live in the city that participate in the Little League there. And if it's a collaborative effort, and if we're trying to talk one Grand Blanc, I would think that the city might want to contribute at least towards some of the equipment, because if we're plowing city, senior citizen center in the city, the parks center in the city, why, did you ask the city if they would do that, or?
I think it came down to the same thing of their amount of manpower and their amount of trucks. When, the senior citizen center has to open at 8 a.m. And that's very specific in the county millage. And so they have it ready for the
Yeah.
seniors who are arriving.
Safe and.
Again, right.
No, we haven't asked them to answer
Right.
your question.
right, okay, again, I think that's something that we should ask, but it just, if we're looking at one community and we're charging the township residents the same to use the dog park as the city resident, and the township residents are footing the bill to begin with, I, out of equity and fairness, I have a problem with that. And I don't want to, believe me, I think we should give you money, but I would just like some fairness. I mean, when we did when we loaned the money for the pavilion, and you had 600,000, and I know that's the city money, but if it's in the Parks and Rec fund, then couldn't we have borrowed it from that, and or would the city just say no?
Well, I can't answer that question for you.
But it's our park.
Scott?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One is, Dr. Reardon brought up interesting on fees. I'm just wondering, I believe there's a fee for renting the pavilion, right?
Yes,
Is there a non-resident fee?
yes.
Okay, and does that apply to people outside of Grand Blanc, city, or outside the township?
Well, our definition of a resident for the Parks and Recreation Commission, because of our inclusion of the schools,
Okay,
is city, township, and school district.
okay. The other question I have is, I'm a little bit familiar from running nonprofit in the past with restricted and non-restricted funds. Are any of it sounds like the city's funds might be restricted to capital expenditures. Is that the way you see it, or?
Not necessarily. It was not intended that way when that millage was presented. That the millage presented was 1 million and was being requested in the city and township. It was for parks and recreation operations.
Okay.
And then when it didn't pass in the township, it kind of slid more to the capital side. And like I said, we have, they have given money out of that to support our recreation programmer position when that was added. They've given money out of the millage money for the concerts. So I wouldn't say
So
it's
that's
strictly capital,
Would
but
this
that's
be-
what it's turned out.
With the wording that we have, would that be restricted?
Yes,
So it would be restricted to capital.
this millage money would be restricted to.
However,
This is
my
all
question,
capital.
my question that ties into that, one more second here, is, do we have, and my joke with the lottery was basically, we voted for the lottery, but they moved the money out of education as
Right.
we played.
Yeah,
Not that we're doing that here, but I'm just wondering, do we have money budgeted for those capital improvements that we're going to be?
Oh, I think I know, you mean if we collect extra money that was earmarked or going to be used for these kinds of things, does that mean there's extra money available for other uses?
Well, I'm wondering if, like, I don't know, out of the budget, that there's $100,000 budget towards capital improvements for the township parks for bicentennial. If we're coming up with, what did we say the amount is that this is gonna raise?
290.
290,000. If that 100 and some thousand that's budgeted currently for capital improvements, if that's gonna stay in capital improvements, or if that's going to go towards.
Well, that's not budgeted
Wages
for capital
or-
improvements. That's part of our operating budget.
Okay, so really, right now, we don't have much.
There is no capital budget. We've never had a
Okay.
capital budget.
It's just operating, right? Karen?
Otherwise,
Yes.
things would have been
Yeah.
fixed, right?
Correct.
Well, I'm just wondering, I want to be able to answer people's question when they say that, you know, I know that some municipalities will get a millage pass saying that it's to keep the police, and the money actually goes for something totally different, you know, they just move things around, but.
So we'll be spent at the park.
Scott, you're right. I mean, the money, if you're gonna collect the millage for police, then the money you were spending on police before you now have for other purposes. Now that, and again, in our fire millage is a good example. We continued our contributions. So
Right,
even though we raised extra money, there was not extra money to be found and used other places. And the way this is intended to be written, as I understand it, is it's specifically for the recreational equipment, the repair and replacement, and maybe the construction. Now, we've got a little bit of facilities is a little bit interesting. We're gonna buy some equipment that's not recreational equipment that will help us maintain the recreational equipment. But hopefully, we're all on the same page that this is specific, it's just gonna be used for this, it can't be used for anything else, because it's dedicated.
I just want to be able to answer taxpayers' question when they're asking me, hey, how can we vote to go for a tax? Well, this is for capital improvements, it isn't to,
right.
you know, fund something else.
Yes, Chris?
I am wondering if you said that the parks is set up so that it's city, township, and schools all as one, so everybody's a resident. Like in Bicentennial Park, everybody's considered a resident. I don't understand then why we can't use city money from the city millage. Because those are a lot of the residents that are using the park too. That doesn't make sense to me. And I guess they know.
It's because the millage was on the ballot in both municipalities that passed. It would be like the city of Burton Parks saying, well, some of our students or some of our residents are in the Grand Blanc district, so we can give this money to Grand Blanc's Park. It's not, it's a separate municipality. And trust me, I've talked to the mayor, and she uses Bicentennial Park. I am a township resident. I love Physicians Park with my kids in the summertime. I use Physicians Park. I mean, it's not create a
I
us
get
versus
that,
them
so it's
kind
one
of
park.
thing.
It's
But-
one park system.
But that
So it should be
$600,000 is
one
a city millage. It's not a township millage. So by law, they can't give the money to the township.
Okay.
But they could help buy equipment.
I think they could have used the money for the, I mean, I think.
Their legal counsel has advised them otherwise.
Right, right.
So
Okay, Earl?
Yeah, and I agree with Larry, I was gonna bring that up. I mean, I've been in both parks at the city, with my kids playing basketball and baseball, and they have to maintain it. They own those facilities, so they have to maintain it. We own this facility, that's why our funds are here, and they've gotta keep some of that funds to maintain their parks. And they built that large pavilion, and like you said, the pavilion in Russ Park, when I was first there, they just had a small diamond and I think a tennis courts and maybe basketball. Well, now they've got the other things you mentioned, And I remember going back in there, they've got, you know, like one of those playscapes in there and some other stuff, so they have expanded it. So they are spending their money in their spots, and I use it, and I'm in the township, so it's, they can use ours. And
I
going back
refuse
to
to
the
go to
dog
any city
park, the
park.
dog park,
You don't have little
You know,
kids.
but the dog park was funded by dog park donations. We did not give any money. The township, as far as I remember, we didn't give any money to that. The city didn't get any money. It was donated, everything was donated, and of course, part of the money, like you said, was supposed to be of their registration to maintain it, and you just tried to help out because they didn't have enough to do it. That's why you stopped the park for a few days to let the grass grow.
Right.
Okay, but it wasn't the whole park you stopped. It was something that was donated by a lot of people. I mean, people donated their time, their talent. There was
Absolutely.
fencing, there was all kinds of things I remember on that list that it wasn't dollars, they went in there and did it. I mean, construction companies did all kinds of things. So, it's not just the Grand Blanc Township dog park. It was funded by everybody, and we didn't put one dime in it, I don't believe.
I think that you can see we are in favor of it.
Well, we have to decide if we're going to approve this
Yeah.
or not. I'd like, because I am on the Parks and Rec Commission, I'd like to say I'm in favor of the language and I will not be here on Thursday night's meeting. I have another engagement, so.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Mickey,
Mickey.
That's it.
one parting comment, if I may. You know, when you look at the actual cost to the residents, on a $100,000 home, $12.50. In a $200,000 home, $25, right? Okay. The reason that I would support this being on for Thursday night, Larry, is it's at least the residents get a chance to decide. This isn't something like the water, you know, you gotta absorb through Detroit or whatever, but at least the residents get, and I'm in favor of putting it on the ballot to let the residents decide, okay? So you can't go wrong. If they want it, they want it. But we all agree, and the presentation, as Scott said, was great because it does show that there is a need for this. This isn't just a, we'd like to have it kind of a thing. It's a, we need it. So, okay?
I would concur.
And I'll support it, but I really wish I was supporting a larger amount. I really do. I'm just gonna go down and say that right now in case it passes by a huge landslide.
They'll take donations.
I think
Yeah,
it's
you know,
extra. I agree.
if they want to pay more, we'll
Yeah,
collect
the
it from you.
donations envelope.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, Kate.
Oh, Mr. Fraser.
It seems appropriate, I just want to just mention, because I heard the Parks and Recreation presentation, back in 1985, none of you were here, the board asked me to put together a grant for that property out there. This was under when Mr. Delaney was here. I put together, priced that out at $25 an acre, we got that entire parcel for $3,500.
Wow.
What a deal.
Wow.
And what you've done with it is amazing.
Thank you for your work.
Yes,
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
thanks for
great.
that comment, that's nice to know.
all right. Now we'll go on to the township agenda, Thursday night.
Yeah. Should be called Heiser Park, huh?
We will have the after the agenda, we'll have the presentation of a plaque for Paul Wagner for his 31 years on the planning commission, on the BZA rather. And going through the regular public comment, approval of the minutes and treasurer's report.
And Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Really turned down? Can you hear?
No, they're
Is
not.
that why you guys are all waving?
Oh,
There it is.
yeah.
May I, while we're on the presentation for Mr. Wagner, we should make sure, as pointed out at the BZA last Tuesday, make sure the years that you have on there. Okay, so I think Marie had put out just in the publication that it was 35 years and it's actually 30. So
30 years?
yeah,
Oh, I thought it was, yeah, she told me
Nin-
31, so.
19, as the park, his appointment was during Mr. Nino, which would have been from 84 to 88, actually.
Yeah.
So he believed it was in the middle of that, which would have been around 85 or 86, right?
Okay.
So 30 years.
I'll check.
It's
with
either
him.
29 or 30,
Okay.
but I just wanted to say the right thing.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that.
I'm sure it's in the minutes somewhere when
I'll-
he
I'll
was really
check.
appointed, right?
I will check on
Yeah.
that, because I just went by her.
Still, that'd be the longest.
Yeah, it's a long
longest
time,
serving,
you know,
resident we
but,
have,
right.
without a doubt.
But he pointed out that as well, so,
Okay,
like, correct.
thank you for reminding me of that, or I will follow through on that. Okay, so we will now, so that night, we will have a public hearing for the proposed general fund, the special funds, and the fire department budgets for 2016. The property tax millage rates proposed to support the proposed budgets will be the subject of this hearing.
That should say a subject of the hearing. It shouldn't say the subject of the hearing. It's not the main subject of the hearing.
It does say A on there.
Mhm.
A subject, it does.
Gotcha. And also, though, can we add your DPW budget for consideration that night? And I have a resolution that essentially outlines the budget, proposed expenditures and revenues.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And then, Madam Chair, in my report, I was going to add the quarterly report also.
Okay, very good. So you got that?
Yep.
We want to, we go through these,
Which one?
I don't know what I was gonna say, do we wanna do the fire department budget first, and then number 8, number 9, or something, so,
Yeah, that way the fire department could just.
so our highly paid accountant, and I say that very sarcastically because he gives away everything he's got to us, can get out of here a little bit earlier.
All right, let's go that way then, okay? We will ask for the presentation of the fire department budget.
Not to rush it in any respect. Ready, Carol?
Good evening, Madam Chair and my fellow trustees. I wanted to give a brief outlook or a brief look into the fire department's accountings for the 2015 year. In regards to the emergency activity, the main fire station is staffed with a combination of career and part-time firefighters to have a minimum of 3 to 4 firefighters on a 24 hours a day basis and 7 days a week coverage. The fire department responded to 85 fires as of November of 2015. This was the same amount of fires the department responded in all of 2014. Total fire loss in November of 2015 was $390,800. The value of the properties involved were in excess of $13 million, saving over $12.5 million in property value, saving jobs, tax revenue for the communities the department serves. Some of the most notable fires that have occurred are commercial fire 9057 South Saginaw, Warwick Hills Country Club, attic fire, which was suppressed quickly and efficiently, commercial fire 3181 Tri-Park sprinkler with activation of sprinkler system. It was suppressed both by the sprinkler system and Grand Lake Fire Department personnel. Residential 3389 Oakland, which was an attic fire, electrical in nature, and that was suppressed by Grand Lake Fire personnel as well. We are pleased to report zero civilian fire injuries and 0 fire fatalities for the year of 2015 so far. This is due to fire personnel are en route in less than 2 minutes. Total response times to the emergency calls is under 7 minutes. Single engine response by the core team of 4 firefighters have been sufficient to cover approximately 3/4 of the department runs. Public education programs in our schools and numerous station tours conducted to reach out to the community on fire safety. The fire prevention awareness program has been delivered to over 1,700 students and adults. We had our first annual open house at Fire Station 1, which was successful in reaching the community in fire safety. We had notable training, which we get members on the Genesee County Urban Search and Rescue Team, which they had training in collapse, building collapse, confined space, and trench rescue. We had other training in business fire safety inspections, driver pump operator, hazmat, hybrid vehicles, lithium battery safety, rescue breathing, vehicle stabilization. Deputy Chief Robert Burdett went to Fire Inspector 1, 2, and Plans Examiner classes, and he completed all of those. Captain Bill Larson went to Fire Inspector 2 and Plans Examiner class. Firefighter Kenny Jacobson went to Fire Inspector 1 class. Fire Inspector Chris Keller went to the car seat class. Deputy Chief Ken Miracle and myself went to Advanced Fire Investigation class. With all our training, this is paid in often dividends, not only for the safety of our firefighters, but also to the communities we serve. We have expanded our fire inspection program with company fire inspections, being able to visit more businesses and correcting violations in a more timely fashion. Outside agencies through grants came into the department to train our members, such as lithium batteries and hybrid vehicles. This type of training is cutting edge and could not have been done without the assistance of these organizations. Notable accomplishments to date are as follows. Fire Station 1 was repainted, computers and software programs have been upgraded, internal fund of the capital equipment acquisition is solvent, and a new engine was purchased in 2014 to replace the 1990 vehicle per the approved depreciation schedule. The new rescue pumper was reconfigured, saving $180,000 to the department and the communities. Fire Station 2 structural repairs, fire training tower structural repairs, Fire Station 3 maintenance and cleanup. Numerous programs started, such as car seat program for children, ride along, maintenance of the fire department, telephone list, emergency contacts, and in-house dispatching for large volume events. The fire department covered the Back to the Bricks event and assisted the police department in evacuating citizens when the storm event happened. Committees were formed to streamline the purchasing of equipment. These were uniforms, turnout gear, rescue pumper, and SCBAs. Thomas Appliance donated a stackable washer and dryer. The contract with full-time firefighter and staff was settled. The fire department had its first Grand Blanc Firefighter of the Year in 2014. A 1990 pumper in an older administrative vehicle was sold to offset the cost of the purchase of a new administration vehicle. 4 new part-time firefighters were hired, replacing the 4 members that left the organization. In regards to mutual aid, Grand Blanc firefighters train and respond with specialized response teams as well. These are the Genesee County Urban Search and Rescue, or USAR team, and hazmat team. They are equipped to respond to incidents such as below-grade trench rescues, road rescue, confined space rescues, and structural collapse. This maintains costs and also gives us the manpower needed for these low-frequency, high-hazard incidents. The fire department also has been involved in emergency management, and the fire department continues to participate in the lockdown take cover exercises, continue to meet with private businesses to assist in the development and adoption of emergency and evacuation procedures, continued implementation of the National Incident Management System, or NIMS. The goals for the upcoming year are the fire inspection, company inspection programs will be totally up and running. The Fire Commission will continue to investigate a new engine and refurbish the rescue truck that are next in line for scheduled replacement. Continuation of all bookkeeping functions and record retention. Continue our fire prevention program and decrease losses in our fire district. More time will be spent in classrooms and with groups at the fire department, keeping our purchases in order, continuing with fire prevention, the fire prevention open house that we started, spending more time training in the repair training tower, and to promote cooperation with the Genesee County area. Also, at the end of January, we'll be presenting a strategic plan for the next 5 years. I'm also inviting Madam Chair and also the trustees to come to Fire Station 1 over in Grand Blanc, December 14th, 2015, at noon for lunch. I'd love to have you guys over there so you can see what we've done over the last year and some of our capabilities as well. And I wanted to thank all of you and wish all of you happy holidays as well.
Starting out, I had a question. You said 85 building fires?
85 fires,
85 fires?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question on the, do you guys go into schools and how many classes do you guys visit?
I don't have those answers offhand right now, but we do go into the schools and we try and frequent as much as we can, especially during the fire prevention month. Usually in October is when we start off.
Okay, then a follow-up on that. You said that you increased inspections. How much did we increase them by?
Well, right now, not a lot, but we're also increasing it. Right now, it's not fully up and running. This is the first year where we have put the company inspection program together. So it's been increased a bit, but we're also answering follow-up calls, basically. So we're getting to those quicker so we can fix violations quicker and if there's any answers or anything in regards to that.
Okay, but so you don't have it to compare to because this is the first year, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
the company inspection, this is the first year,
Okay.
so I have nothing to compare it to. But that's something that we'll be looking into for the future as well. So there is a comparison, so I can present that. So when you ask questions like this, I definitely can.
Well, then, one last question.
Sure.
So you said your response time was 2 minutes. Do you have a response time to fires versus a response time to accidents?
Well, actually, no, I don't have response time per accidents compared to fires. Overall, our response time right out the door is 2 minutes or less.
Okay.
To get to the scene is 7 minutes. Now, on occasion, we may get to a fire incident, maybe 8 minutes,
Yeah,
maybe
right.
9 minutes, but we also may get to a fire incident in 3 minutes or 4 minutes. But overall average is 7 minutes.
Well, that's right, that was my question.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's all calls, average calls?
Yeah, and that's 91% actually.
Yes?
The inspections you're talking about, Chief, are businesses that you're inspecting, or?
Yes.
Who are the candidates for inspection? Apartment buildings?
Any business, apartment buildings, basically we could go into the main areas. We can't go into the apartments without the permission of the owners. So if we set something up with that, then we could go in and inspect inside the apartments themselves.
I take it they're cooperative with you, or?
Usually, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We really haven't had any problems with it. There's been a lot of questions in regards to the new company inspection program. Are there added costs? There's no added costs in regards to that.
Is there a cost?
There is a cost for the inspection. I think it's $25. I think it depends on the size of the business or the building as well. So but that was in place prior to me even getting here.
Are they required to have it inspected, or? it's-
Yes, annually they're required to have an inspection, yes.
So what happens if we can't get around it? I mean, are you able to get around all of them?
No, I don't have the manpower for it. If I did, trust me, I'd be doing it for
Sure,
sure.
we're behind because it hasn't been being done, right?
Yeah, we are behind, actually.
What the
So how
commission's looking at is actually a 2-year rotation. I mean, so if we're not gonna inspect every single business every 12 months.
That was my next question, is how long do you think it
It
take
used
to?
to be, as they did it before, it was on a 3-year rotation.
3 years.
Yeah, it's going to be probably a 3 to 4 year rotation because we don't have the personnel for
So
it.
do we want to change the permit to be a 2 or 3 year permit? Because I mean, if I'm a business owner and I'm
Yeah,
required to have it
yeah.
annually and you can't get around to see me, I don't like to have ordinances we can't enforce.
Well, that's NFPA. So,
NFPA is saying that it has to be.
yes,
annual?
NFPA and IFSTA, which is what we go by, is annual. So, and then there's also outside businesses that, like fire suppression systems for
Restaurants?
restaurants, for cooking, that's a semi-annual, that's every 6 months, but that's not done by the fire department, that's done by a private company.
Right.
So,
Do we have any liability if it's required annually and we aren't able to get around to them annually? Do we have any liability for them not being inspected?
I'm
Might be a
not
legal
sure, to be
question.
honest. I don't think so, but I'm not 100%
Who
sure.
requires it? Who are the people that actually require it?
Well, it's in the code, right?
Yes.
So it's in the fire code, and it says that if you engage in inspections, then you need to do them and I think does it lay out a minimum interval of a year?
Yes, minimum is 12 months.
So we're not gonna, we have a bad policy, potentially, if we can't accommodate people that are expecting and expected to have a yearly inspection. But bottom line is, we don't have specifically a liability issue as to us if we don't get it done.
Okay. My other question is with regard to, can you talk a little bit about ISO ratings and where we're at? Has that improved over time, or where are we at on that?
We're definitely deficient in some areas, especially some of the areas that do not have hydrants. I do not know what our last ISO rating was, but I know some of the areas of the township, it was higher because we didn't have hydrants and other things. But everything is looked into the ISO rating, and that actually has just recently changed. So they've redone how they do the equations for the ISO. But I believe we're due probably about 3 or 4 years from now for the next ISO rating.
How often do they do it?
I want to say 5 to 7 years, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Because that has an effect on our
Yeah.
Yes, it has an effect on insurance
property
ratings.
insurance ratings.
Yep.
How many inspections, how many places do we inspect?
Oh, right now, I think last year we had, I'm guessing 250 is maybe what we inspected. I don't have a solid answer. I'd have to get back to you on that, and I can.
Because, because if you don't have it, obviously, you can't get it. The folks that are in the station during the daytime, wasn't the goal to have them go out and do the?
That's part of the company inspection program. They have other things that they're doing, such as they're going to the stations and checking all the equipment, making sure the trucks are running, equipments are in order. That all takes time, and that's done usually, especially on the first Monday, and then if there's any fire or anything like that, if any of the trucks go out, they have to check all the equipment at all the stations.
Yeah, well, I understand emergencies, and I get that. But I'm just trying to, if you have 200 and some, at the police department, I hate to bring the police department in because this is the fire department, but at the police department, what we used to do is we did liquor inspections on a monthly basis. And we would assign an officer maybe this month to do 16 of them, and another one to do 16, and we'd try to break it up and give them that month. And so on a monthly basis, we would go in and do those. And I'm wondering if that's something.
That's being worked on, but also you're kind of comparing apples to oranges.
Well,
because the department has a much larger budget than we do.
Right.
So-
Well, right, I get that.
If I may, one thing that we had done as a fire commission, that before we had, Chris Keller basically was the fire inspector.
Yep.
We had one. You can't just say, okay, here's your new responsibilities, they have to be trained. And we are training, is it 3 other firefighters?
I had all the full-time staff, they're all trained as fire inspectors, and also some of the part-time
So
staff.
3
as
full,
well.
3, which is all the full-time, 3
Yep.
plus a couple. So we are working on getting some other firefighters certified.
That's the first thing I did.
So we can send out multiple.
How long does it take to do an average fire inspection?
It could be, it depends on the business. It could be literally walking in, take you 5 minutes. It could also be 5 hours, depending on what it is, how big the business is. I've been on inspections where it's taken me days. And when I say days, I mean days.
Okay, so Warwick Party Store compared to Walmart, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
or the hospital, because we go and do inspections over at Genesis.
Sure.
So, yeah, big, Genesis is a huge undertaking. So, Walmart would be a large undertaking, especially as they opened up and
What
all
about
that.
What about someplace like Applebee's or Buffalo Wild Wings?
It depends on what the inspection is, because you have several different types of inspections. You have inspections where your annual inspection, general inspection, you're checking exit signs, fire extinguishers, things like that. Then you have your fire suppression. If the building's sprinklered, has it been sprinklered? Do they have all their certificates that it's been checked? Other things, if it's a new installation, if they change the walls, they may have to get the sprinklers moved around. So it really depends on each type of inspection.
So you don't do both the sprinkler and the regular inspection at the same time? You have to do, you come back, I mean, you have different inspections on different,
Yes, there's different inspections for different types of things, depending on the size of the building, the business, what the business is. You know, there's a different inspection compared to somebody coming in here selling fireworks compared to selling Band-Aids. I mean, that's a night and day difference, so.
But I think her question would be, if you're going into Applebee's, you got a set number of inspections you have to do at Applebee's, right?
Yes,
So you might do 5 things there, but if you go into a retail store, maybe you're only gonna do 2 or 3 things, right? But
Yes.
But it's set, and you're only going in once at one time a year, right?
no, because what happens is we'll go in, we'll do inspection, or the fire inspector will do inspection, and we'll find violations. So now you have to go back again and make sure those violations have been corrected.
Oh,
And
I
once-
understand, but
Yeah.
if everything's up to snuff and you do it, you are gonna check everything at one stop,
Yeah,
right? And if everything's okay, then you're done with that building. If
Yep,
there's
and then we
exceptions,
go-
you'll come back.
then we move on to the
But you
next
look
one.
at everything in one stop, right?
Yes.
if
Chief,
you
one of the things-
interpreted well for me. Scott,
Yeah, one of the things that the inspections do, you know, you go to some municipalities, and I work with a lot of businesses, so I'm not wanting to put a burden on them, but there's a certain amount, you know, we've talked about appearance of places and blight and what have you, and there's a certain level that these inspections require of people, and the level of inspections also determines how well we want our businesses
You're right.
maintained, okay? And I'm not just talking fire inspection, I'm talking code enforcement, what have you, but, so that's why I'm asking a little bit about the inspection, because I think it helps maintain the quality of the community a little bit, not just fire inspections.
And the safety, actually.
Yeah, the safety, and I don't know, I'd feel bad if we didn't inspect someplace and it ended up injuring some people, but, you know, going without any inspections, you know. Restaurants, just to mention those, they basically have a company that comes in and checks their good twice a year, cleans it, whatever, and they have to tag it, which you guys look for the tag.
Yep.
The sprinkler systems, you know, Walmart or whoever it is that's a sprinkler system, they have to hire a company to come in and test that sprinkler system and tag it, and that paperwork for the fire department to come in and check. But yeah, you have all varying degrees, but my concern is, one, the liability, not necessarily legally, but morally, and then the other is that I think it helps maintain the community if you have a healthy but not overzealous, you know,
right,
inspection to the
Yeah.
point where we're not running businesses out of here, but we
Yeah, and we're not
maintain
looking to
the
do
quality.
And I'm pretty sure the liability is on the business owner, not on us.
Yeah, but I'm just saying morally, I would
Yeah, I
feel,
agree.
Madam Clerk? I
I'm
want
sorry.
to make a couple comments here real quick. First of all, I mean, we got to do what we can with the size. If we want to micromanage and, you know, totally rewrite the inspection policy, that's fine, but we're approving the budget tonight, and I don't want to be here till 11:30 on a committee of the whole meeting, so let's kind of stick with the budget. I mean, it's kind of like the police department. We got 38 sworn officers. I wish I could get the residents 48, but here's what the budget allows, and here's the inspection we can do with what we have right now. So.
Well, my comment is that this was brought up, and that's why I'm making this comment.
Yeah.
We're way off
Well,
time.
it doesn't matter now. How long does it take, on average, to do a Rite Aid inspection?
Right in inspection, I'm guessing half an hour.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thanks.
the reason why I'm asking about the inspections, I mean, we're looking at the budget, and if we're not up to snuff on, I mean, if it's taken us 3 years to get around, and we've got an ordinance that says you have to, or the NFPA says we have to have it annually, you know, how are we looking at covering that gap? I mean, are we looking at private firm coming in and doing inspections?
That's
or-
what I'm confused about, because.
I'm
we've
actually
got-
looking into some other alternatives in the future, like self-inspection programs for low hazard businesses. That way they will have a list that they could check off, send it into the fire department.
Right.
So make it quick and easy, make sure they're up to snuff, and they're staying safe as well.
Right,
And that would be on a low hazard
yeah.
business. the medium and more hazardous business,
Sure.
we would go in and do the inspections.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think anytime you have an ordinance, if you aren't going to enforce it, then get rid of the ordinance, because otherwise it just makes everybody think, well, they don't enforce the ordinances there.
I've actually, first coming into this first year, found a lot of businesses that were not there any longer. Some of them haven't had inspections done in a while. So we're trying to correct
Sure.
the issues and make sure
Gotcha.
that the community is safe.
There was a difference between the two also. The city was doing residential, or,
Apartments.
apartments and that, and the city and the township was doing businesses. So
Ma'am.
What do you mean? I thought it was all one fire department.
it-
Prior to.
prior to this, they had the township inspections were working on businesses, and the city was working on apartments.
Now they're doing all of it, right?
Now they're doing all of it.
Madam Chair, I am going to say that I strongly object to my questioning being construed as micromanagement when the fire chief brought this stuff up. If he hadn't brought it up, that didn't inspire a question I wouldn't ask. And if the police chief had a question, brought something up, and I thought I should question, I would question. If the budget director does it, or if the DPW director does it, I'll ask the question.
Okay, point taken. Okay,
If you,
I think-
yeah, if you don't have any further questions
No.
for me, I'll have Carl present.
Are there any other questions from anybody?
Well, I'm pretty confused, but I'm not gonna ask the question now because it's gonna lead to 50 questions.
I just have one parting comment in that I appreciate the detail that's in this, and I know, I'm sure you want to get, we're at maybe C and you want to get to Z, but, I understand you're catching up for a lot of things that haven't been done. And, I imagine maybe we want more detail in the future, and you'll probably have that as you cover a lot of the stuff that you're trying to catch up with now.
And if you wish to sit down with me personally, anybody, I will either come to you or you can come to me.
Sure.
Talk to me on the phone. I have no problem with that at all. And again, remember that I'm inviting everybody December 14th for lunch.
I appreciate that.
I will be brief. The original budget that I submitted, or was submitted prior to today, we had a general fund and we had the internal fund was presented. There were two corrections we had to make, and that had to do in the revenue area that came. I put together the projected amounts that I thought it would be, and I think Mr. Guzak had the exact amount. One went up, one went down. And what you have in your packet here, I'm not going to read it to you, it's 2 pages on the total revenue and expenditures, and I got into more detail on this, so I feel very comfortable with it. And we're showing after a transfer of $120,000 on page 2 from the general fund to the internal fund, we're showing $1,214, to the good. So we have a balanced budget for the general fund. I'm very pleased with that. I spent a lot of time on that because I knew where to look. And the internal fund, which is 1 page, the internal fund shows the township contributions, it's 1 page, transfers from the general fund, and then the expenditures that I see that we have budgeted, including the setting aside depreciation for $100,000. That is an increase in your cash. I'm projecting the cash in the internal fund will be $350,000 at the end of the year, jumping forward, so we can do our debt retirement. And I'm projecting the general fund to be approximately just under $200,000. So we have a solid budget and plan. I intend on being more active in saying no as we go forward, in the budget areas. I'm very active with the fire department. I do want to say that I can answer the question on the, because I happen to know the revenues. For the inspections, they're $25 to $150, and I think they should be doubled. They're too low. This goes back to harms.
Right.
We were trying to create community didn't want to offend anybody. That's how I'm taking it. So, you know, when I got my inspection, I thought it was very good. I thought I was all ready, you know, came in and and looked through, and they said, oh, look at these fire extinguishers. Well, I see them. And they said, they're 20 years old. And I looked, took this, oh, okay, so for $13, I got a new one. They came back in. It was 3 or 4 minutes in, 3 or 4 minutes out. And I said, what's the bill? He said, he gave me the bill. I said, it's only $25. I thought it was more. Was it 125? Oh, no, it's only 25. I'm going to look at that revenue, because I think we can double that. Just because people whine about fees, I mean, we have a department to run. We can double that without even, you know, blinking an eye. So I'm going to look at that again. I got stepped on early when I tried to raise the fees, but I'll go back and get the fees raised. So I would appreciate your approval on this budget, and I'm enjoying the job as your commissioner and treasurer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Heiser for his time. I'm sure all of us
Absolutely.
feel likewise that I'm sure you're a real asset to us to have in the fire. Thank you. Thanks for your work. Yes, it
And
is.
in the park department.
Oh,
Yeah.
memories.
Carl,
Thank you.
before you're done, one suggestion I would have that would make it easier from the board's perspective to be able to compare is, instead of it just as the fiscal year 2016 budget, if we can see that at least a 3-year historical budget that runs with it, so they can see the actual trends of where it's going. I think it's sometimes easier, and we'll answer some of the questions that folks may have had if they're able to see that.
I'll make a note, it's very easy to do.
Sure.
3-year comparison. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. And so now we'll go to the other part, Kathy.
Okay, that special revenue funds budget, since they haven't even walked through that first, I think we looked at that, we've gone through the general fund budget.
You want to go to the
Yeah, I think if you started with that special revenue funds budget, just because it's, we walked through the general funds budget at previous meetings. We'll revisit it to see if there's any additional questions that have come up since that time, but the board, really, we haven't spent time on that
You're right.
special revenue funds budget.
Okay, sure. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Special revenue funds, first of all, is a bicentennial park fund. The only thing in here, we have a rental income of $24,000, that's for the cell tower lease. And then the expenditure is the debt payment on that 5-year loan to the township. Do you want me to just go through all of them and then ask questions at the end, or do you want to stop and go?
With the rest, okay, are there any questions? Do you want to go through it point by point?
I don't need it, I mean,
I
that's,
don't-
you know, but I look at these every day, so.
Okay. Is there anyone that has questions of Kathy on any particular part of this special funds budget?
Well, Madam Chair, I have a question regarding the PEG channel fund. We're retaining that money that we received for the PEG channel, okay.
Yes, that's correct, it's
Very
just going
good.
back into fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
But it's staying specifically for PAC.
It is, it's reserved within that fund.
Okay, because it
Yeah,
has to be for
spent
just
in-
that.
But right now, we have no expenditures budgeted.
Yes, okay.
I mean, really, you're looking at, I mean, it's everything from that PEG fund, drug forfeiture fund, CDBG community development funds, OPEB retirement benefit funds, all those are listed in the special
Right.
revenue fund. So I don't think we have to go through it on each individual fund unless there's specific questions.
It sounds like everybody's satisfied with what you put forward. Thank you.
Okay, good.
So and then if we look at the general fund,
Right.
like I said, we have reviewed it in the past, and everybody was pretty comfortable with where we were, but it's also been a few weeks since then, so has anything come up in the general fund that we can?
Is there anybody that has changed their mind on anything in regard to the general fund?
I see that the fire department revenue from the half a mil matches our,
Yeah.
so that's good.
That was just an oversight.
Good question. I'm looking on the agenda for it. and Right now might be a good point to bring this up. I'm just looking to see if our assessing department, there's nowhere on the agenda that they're going to be talking about the personal property tax. I'm just wondering, right now, businesses with $80,000 or less of personal property can file. I'm just curious as to if we ended up with a large majority of those businesses filing for that exemption, or if very few did. Do we know how many businesses have less than 80,000?
That would be Becky.
But in the budget,
Yeah.
did we see a sizable drop in personal property because of this?
No, when I talked to Becky, she said the major impact will affect us the following year.
Yeah.
So it won't be until the 2017 budget.
So the changes that came about were any businesses with $80,000 or less
Could be exempted.
Yeah, we didn't see a huge impact to our revenue stream because of that, and it's kind of anticipated. I mean, and again, most of that, it's a self-reporting thing. I mean, we're
Right.
doing it on
Right, but we have an idea of who would qualify for that, though, right?
yeah, and we haven't seen like a bunch of people come in and say, hey, suddenly I'm down below the limit. If you look at our revenue stream, what Becky's recommendation was to, we pretty much moved forward from 2015 to 2016 without a big impact there.
Okay.
Okay, Kathy and Becky did, really take that into consideration when considering what they started out with as a budget.
Because there are municipalities that just went ahead and exempted everybody automatically that had 80,000 or less in personal property.
We've got a lot of people over that, though.
Right, which they wouldn't be exempt.
Right.
Okay, I was just curious how it was impacting us.
Did you come up with new forms of the property tax too that are going to be, it just came out maybe like a month or 5 weeks ago, we finally got the forms that we've been promised for
Okay.
all year. We really received them, literally like 5 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'll ask you again, is there anybody that has any new questions on the general fund budget?
Just a comment, if I may, and maybe, Earl, you may be aware of it, but so that Dennis is aware as well. We had just a minor ding in our audit regarding the cemetery, the way that we were.
Well, what it was is there was dividends coming through in cash, and we expected it to come through as dividends, okay? And they did keep switching back to cash, and we're not allowed to receive, no, I'm sorry, it was coming in stock,
Yeah.
and we're not allowed to receive stock.
So did we fix that? But I don't see in the appropriations anything for cemetery. Is that where that would have been in our appropriations?
Yes, cemetery are not budget, you don't prepare a budget for the cemetery fund?
No, but do we don't have a line item for appropriations? I don't see anything going out or coming in.
Right, we don't.
Okay, but with that being said, then we've corrected this.
Well, they tried to correct it, and I think they got farther this time than they have.
Yes, we're probably gonna see the comment in this year's audit because we corrected it during this year,
Okay,
but hopefully we have it all corrected at this point.
very good, very good. Okay, that was what I wanted to.
I have a follow-up question regarding cemeteries, and this probably would involve our legal, is that,
Well, there's our cemetery man out there too.
Oh, yeah, Jeff is a cemetery expert.
this one, somebody brought to my attention that there's some issues going on with Crestwood
Oh, yes.
Cemetery. And they said, do you know what happens if the state gets involved, or what have you, that it could come back to us?
Yeah,
Exactly.
which we have no.
We have no say on.
We have to take it.
So-
We don't want it.
Right, so I mean, is there any way that we say we don't want it, or?
No.
No, unfortunately.
No, we should write a letter saying that we have had problems, okay? We have had complaints.
Well, say it again, then what? We should send a letter?
Well, that's what they told me at the supervisors meeting, that
we-
should send a letter.
We've been carbon copied on the complaints that they've received from citizens, and I've been in contact with the Attorney General's office, and we're
Yeah.
working with them to try to help them resolve their complaints. As a matter of policy, we don't want that cemetery.
Right.
Cemeteries are, despite all that goes along with them, they're hard to take care of, and they cost money. Though, we do have some cemeteries in our township, and as a part of taking responsibility for those cemeteries, we receive some, what were part of their perpetual care endowments, which were various stocks, and they're of different classes and categories, and Dennis and I were just discussing it, and Chris and I had discussed it with at least one financial firm of trying to just convert those stocks into money that can be held in our perpetual care account, because we have the obligation for perpetual care, just like any cemetery does. We have less regulations, but the obligation's still there. So we want to help the Attorney General solve their problem with Crestwood, and we do want to convert. And these are just tiny amounts of stock. It's enough to show up on the radar, and it's not worth the hassle. So we are, I think, with Jeff Sears and with Chris's office, we should make sure that we follow through with that effort to try to convert those and remove that tiny blemish from our audit.
And Kathy, you guys were doing it, right? Wasn't Yvonne doing it?
We did look into getting the stock that we were receiving put into dividends, but I guess I wasn't sure from a legal standpoint whether or not we can actually sell that stock and retain the cash.
I think I will answer that question for you, because it doesn't do us any good any other way. So I will answer that question.
Okay, 'cause, yeah, we can certainly look into selling.
We don't need assets, we
Right.
need money.
But do we have any liability with Crestwood? I mean,
Not-
potentially?
Not currently.
Get it?
Potentially, if there's a situation where we're forced to take responsibility for Crestwood, and believe me, we will resist that every step of the way. It is conceivable that we would have some responsibility. And again, it's perpetual responsibility, so
Right.
it's something we really try to avoid if we can.
How do we resist it, other than just saying,
By trying to get them to try to help them enforce whatever complaints they have. We can't help the economic situation. If that place is upside down, then it's gonna follow its own course. But a lot of these complaints have to do with maintenance issues, in the conditions of certain property. And so we're gonna try to facilitate that as much as we can.
I just have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes?
Because I believe, the stock that we were talking about that was causing this problem was willed to us, and in the will it said we could not sell their stock, okay? And that's why it hasn't been sold since I've been here, okay? So I don't know if we can finally now or not, but that's why we didn't sell it 7 years ago.
But we can't be stockholders, so the issue is we can't follow somebody's last will and testament that causes us to get into an illegal action,
So that's
so
all we're gonna-
therefore,
So that's how we'll get around it.
I think that we can convert it, and we were, Chris, you and I met maybe 6 months, a year ago with a financial
It
advisor,
was before Kathy got here, wasn't it?
and we were kind of on that path,
That was-
because exactly as you feel, I mean, it does not help us in the least, it hurts us. And if we need to, I guess, worst case scenario, if I need to file a motion in probate court to have that stock redirected to some other relative or purpose or whatever, it's just causing us a blemish in our audit.
And most of the stock, we do get a check from. There's just one portion, one set of stock that they reinvested. It's very minimal, but they still do it.
Right, but it was, we would get the cash for a while, and then it would come back and dividends would pop back up. So it's been fixed more than once.
We just shouldn't have traditional shares of stock, there's no room for that.
We'll put Jeff Sears on that.
yeah, the other thing on cemeteries, just so that all the board knows, is that traditionally the cemeteries always land on the lap of the clerk, but Director Sears, with his vast experience in cemeteries, has agreed to manage cemeteries for us moving forward. Thank you, Director Sears.
However, Chris could be the one charged with weed whacking and maintaining.
So, thank you very much, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Your preparation was so good that we.
Madam Chair, the one budget that's not on here is the DPW budget.
Yes.
And I think you have copies of it. Is it ready to be considered by the board and adopted?
Is there any questions from what you received, okay?
I guess a comment then.
Yes.
That we know that the revenue is not solid yet, right? I mean, we don't know what the DPW revenue side is, or is that? Is the number there realistic? Usually this time of year, we always we're not sure of the revenue on the DPW side.
No, that revenue is pretty solid based on the proposed rate increases
Okay.
and the number of units and connections we anticipate to
Yeah,
increase.
so it's no different than what we do in the
Correct,
government
it's
side.
proposed
Right,
based
right.
on our
Yeah.
projection into the new year.
I know, it seems like we've just had trouble in, just getting that number before, in the December time, so.
We can wait.
No,
If you
I
wanna
don't,
wait, there's any
right.
reason
I
to
know
wait.
we don't have to adopt that one but we might as well, right? We can always. amend that.
Absolutely, and it's an incredibly hard projection to make because we
Yeah.
really don't know what's gonna happen and not, it
Yeah.
depends on the housing market and everything else here in the township, so it's.
I'm in favor of just adopting it tonight.
Just simply, and I'm looking, the copy that I have, it looks like it was updated April of 2015, but it's showing a proposed total revenues for water and sewer system of $17,911, $17,911,804.12.
Gave us heart failure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even though it says it updated April, it was really, this was
Or
from
Thursday, yeah.
November.
Okay, so these are current, these are good to put in the resolution for Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do it. And we'll just add, I guess right after the fire department budget, we'll add DPW budget.
Chris has already got it down.
Oh, I do? Yeah,
Mhm.
I do. In here.
Okay, moving on then. Okay, the board shall, well, we know, we've already gone through the Parks and Recreation. We will be, you have the language, so we will look at that for Thursday. The board shall consider adopting a resolution rejecting the transfer of the following properties from the Genesee County Office of the Treasurer to Grand Blanc Township. We've looked at these and said, at this point, we do not want them.
We had the Director Sears take a look to make sure that none of those properties would perhaps be in a future facilities plan that would allow us to secure an easement before we rejected them. And there's nothing in the three properties. Two of them are vacant lots. One has a house on it, but is in very poor repair. So there is no benefit to the township for keeping those properties, and therefore our recommendation was that we do the resolution to reject them so they go back to the land bank.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just a question, not belabor this, but on these, on the one that are homes anyways, do they tear these down or they try to rehab them, right?
yeah,
And sell them if possible.
yes.
If it
There's
is
some,
possible.
yeah, we have some, they have some that are pretty nice houses, okay, that
I mean,
they,
that they've rehabbed.
yeah, well, that, or that they have on the list,
Scratch, yeah.
that they have listed, have on their priority list to fix.
So I mean, so potentially there's homes in Grand Blanc Township that the land bank owns
Mhm,
that nobody's living in, they're vacant.
mhm, yes.
Are they, do they maintain the outside of them or do they turn into?
There was one that we asked to be demolished, okay, or put on our CDGP list.
Right,
The others look very, very good. I mean, they looked kept up even, okay, so, so there were 4 total, and we cited the one for demolition. And the others, you know, they have already. And
I just want to make sure we're
Yeah.
not contributing to what, you know, we've talked about, blight. I
No.
want to make sure that by not, you know, doing something with these
No,
ourselves.
the ones that they've done in Grand Blanc have done very well.
Okay.
They work in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity.
Okay. I do the job.
Okay, the board will consider a motion to accept the second reading of the water ordinance revision of number 2016-1, which increases water rates and adds mandatory water connection language. Mr. Sears or Mr. Potter, one of you? Are you ready to answer questions? Any questions, anybody?
Well, I'll take it. We had quite a rousing discussion
Yeah.
last month, and we added some language that clarified that if you have a township, or if you have your own well, you're going to be able to keep that well under a lot of conditions. In fact, we added that if you're building a new habitable structure, then you're going to have to comply with hooking up. Otherwise, the Director of Public Works will make a determination that you may be able to carry on with your well. And we amended it based in large part
Right.
for Mr. Ert and his fellow participants. We'll call it the Ert Amendment, but it satisfies the questions.
Porter Meadows.
Okay, very good. And so we addressed, I think, a lot of the hot button issues last month, and now we boil it down to just a good old-fashioned unfortunate increase, which again is being fueled by the Detroit water situation.
I have a question. It's a real simple one for either you or Jeff, but when I was writing this, the last time, I put the second reading of the water and sewer amendment. And I think the language came from you that I put that in, water and sewer amendment. But you said, David, I think when I was talking to you, water and sewer, why is it sewer? So what should I be calling this?
This is a water.
Okay. That's why I changed it this time, but when I publish it, I want to call it the right thing.
Okay. Next is the board will consider a motion to approve the increased allocation to the 2015.
Except the snow plowing.
Oh, I said, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. The board will consider a motion to approve the snow plowing policy of 2016.
You guys will see a narrative in the packet. Director Sears and I had a conversation after our first significant snowfall event of a few weekends ago. And we pulled out the current policy, which was dated to 2010. It required some updating anyway. There was some reference to the number of trucks that we were going to have in 2010 and 2011. But with Director Sears being here only for 1 year, myself being new, he really asked if he could revisit what the board's philosophy was going to be on snow plowing, wanting to make sure that in the current policy it talks about that we will not typically send them out, our guys out on weekends or holidays to avoid any type of overtime pay on snow plowing, and that it's considered a significant snowfall event where that decision may be made and send them out in overtime situations if there is 4 inches or more expected in snowfall. So I think, Jeff, if you want to come up, but he really wanted to make sure that we will revise it just to clean up the language for one thing, but to make sure that we're capturing the current board's philosophy correctly when it comes to snow plowing policy.
Basically, our goal is just to make sure that we're meeting the expectations of the township board and the residents. The past snowstorm we had was, it was a hard one to call, I have to admit, but I did not deploy our snow vehicles because I did not feel like we had an emergency in the township. Going by the policy, it clearly states that we do not plow on weekends or overtime. So I'd like to know how that went, how you felt that decision, if it was a good decision, if it was made, and what constitutes an emergency from here on out. To me, if I can't get down my road to go check the rest of the roads, then yeah, something should be done. But if I can get down the road in my minivan, which, trust me, doesn't take much snow to slip it up, then it's probably okay. So, you know, I'm just looking for expectations on what you feel constitutes an emergency.
Well, it seemed like the four-inch policy had worked well last year, really.
It absolutely did. And in this storm, we ended up having more than 4 inches on the roads.
Yeah.
We got a total of 12 inches in the township, had maybe 6 inches on the roads, most of it melted. So technically we were over the 4 inches. We could have plowed during the day, which we did ultimately on Monday morning. But to me, it was an emergency, which I made the call not to plow on the weekend, which we would have paid double time for.
Yes.
Question, and you and Mr. Guzak might remember this because we talked about this in the previous board. We as a board said 4 inches or more, and then we said no holidays, no weekends unless it was a state emergency.
Right.
And then, and again, this is the previous DPW director before you,
Mhm.
found out right after the first year that really didn't work well because if we got a snowfall on a Friday night or a Saturday morning, by the
Sure.
time Monday came around, we had nothing but hard-packed ice and ruts in
Sure.
the roads. And we actually found out, or so we were told by our previous director, that he was spending more time on straight time cleaning it up on Monday morning than we would have if we had just done it Friday night or Saturday morning.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
open to
it.
your interpretations and inputs on that, but that was kind of the previous experience was how holidays and weekends were approved by the previous board. I'm kind of
Yeah,
surprised
right.
that that policy has
And,
not changed.
and that was one of the problems, is I was not able to find an updated policy, a current policy with a signature on it. This is the latest version of the policy I could find.
It does say in emergency situation, the DPW director can declare it.
Absolutely.
So, and
It's-
we told the previous
Yeah,
DPW director that would be an emergency. Anything over 4 inches, if you had to go out on a Saturday, you could do it. But if you want to clean it up so it's more clear, that's what we think we're doing today, right?
Yeah.
In this case, and I think I did outline in that in my memo that, you know, we desire to do a very good job for our residents, and whenever you get that hard packed snow, it is extremely difficult. And it probably does cost more money in the long run. You have to use more salt, you have to spend more time on it.
Costs more mailboxes to be hit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, we want to do a good job.
Yeah.
In that case, the weather showed that it was gonna melt, and, you know, it worked out well in the end, but just revisiting this, how do we wanna revise the policy to make it an effective policy for our township?
Scott?
We just leave it up to Jeff's discretion, then we have somebody to blame besides other board members.
Absolutely. And that's perfectly fine with me.
But I want to say that I do believe in leaving some of it to your discretion. I think, you know, we expected the weather to warm up, so, you know, when I saw it snowing, I'm wondering, boy, I wonder if the trucks are gonna come out, because this stuff's gonna be gone entirely by Thanksgiving, and probably a good majority of it, the roads are gonna be melted in the next 48 hours, but the main roads, the county's doing anyways.
Right.
We don't ever do those, right? I
Right.
mean, that's,
No.
so I mean,
Yeah.
as far as an emergency, if you can get to a main road, I mean, that's the county's responsibility, and I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's fine the way it is, and I appreciate how you handled the situation.
Oh, God. I know what's
Okay,
coming.
Chris, and then you,
Okay.
Clark.
I would like to see you do it at 4 inches, no matter what, even if
Okay.
tomorrow's supposed to be a nice day,
Okay.
because maybe tomorrow isn't gonna be a nice day. And even if it's on the weekend, and then you've got school buses coming at 7
Sure.
in the morning or 6:30 in the morning, I just think that it's much better to have it done, and let's just hope it doesn't
And
snow on the weekends.
part of our intentions are, if there's a snow before school day, we will be in early, so we can beat the school traffic. Granted, we can't make it to all of the subdivisions
Yeah,
before
but you
those
could have
buses.
8 to 12 inches by then.
That's true.
Oh, then
And-
that would be a snow day.
Yeah.
But I still think that you.
A storm of, you know, that magnitude, if we know it's coming, we're gonna be prepared and we're gonna plow,
Yeah,
no matter
I
what.
I would like to see it at 4 inches. I'd really like 3, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna push for that. But I would like 4.
Okay, Clark.
I can't help myself after listening to this conversation and this discussion. Keep in mind, Jeff, you did a great job last year, okay? And I mean, we had a lot of snow, right? So don't, I'm not But keep in mind, as we're discussing this emergency policy or snow removal policy, it is, approach it like this, Jeff. It is absolutely not our responsibility to plow the roads. It's Genesee County's responsibility. What we do is we assist in helping, the betterment of the community, right, in plowing. I mean, that's kind of where I came to be able to sleep at night, the fact that we're even doing something, spending money, Grand Blanc taxpayers' money on something that's not our responsibility, and we wonder why the county doesn't help us out in any other ways with roads and those kinds of things, but out of the goodness of our, and the goodness of the people in the community, we plow the roads, right? But approach it the way, approach it the way you do. And that, but first and foremost, approach it that this isn't, if we don't do it, it's not our responsibility.
Yeah, but that's not what we.
Well,
And I understand where you're coming from, and to be honest with you, even if we said we're not gonna plow it on the weekends, Genesee County's gonna say, well, I don't care, you'll be there Monday morning anyways. Genesee County does not plow subdivisions on weekends. The city of Burton does not plow subdivisions on weekends. Area communities do not do that. When you get into the smaller cities, municipalities, they do. Maybe even some of the larger ones do. But I'm willing to do whatever we want. It's the level of service we want to provide, basically.
you did.
Yeah, and as you say, this is subdivisions that we.
Absolutely.
It's not any interconnected.
Absolutely.
For sure, I would hope that our parking lots could get,
Parking lots are plowed regardless.
it wasn't this Sunday, because I was coming into work and I thought, ooh, I'm not gonna turn in there.
Well, that's an issue then, because I had 2 technicians out Saturday night plowing parking lots.
It looked deep to me, but maybe it was done,
When
because it's snowing all night. But this doesn't have really anything to do with you, but I wish that we could bill Genesee County. Why not?
No,
Why
we-
not? Why not try it? What are they gonna say?
You could always try it.
I think we should try it. I think we should send them a bill. They sent us a bill for something they shouldn't have.
And it should say if it's not paid in 30 days, it's
Yeah.
10% interest.
Yeah. They won't waste a stamp. I love that idea, though. I do like the idea.
I mean, how are they gonna even know we're doing it if they don't get a bill?
They know. They know.
Well, a bill will make it real clear.
They know what we're doing.
They
and
know what we're doing.
Well, part of it, they were giving us free salt because we were plowing subdivisions.
They do, and they do give us 300 tons of salt a year.
Right. So we
Which,
wouldn't
per
do
the
that.
road commission, is our maximum. The DEQ will allow us to apply to our subdivision streets. I've never heard that rule before, but that's what they tell me. So we take our 300, we try and remain underneath that 300 tons, and hopefully we don't have to spend any money on salt.
As far as what Chris had mentioned on billing, one thing that it would do is, I think,
Send a message.
what Clark had mentioned was that it's not our job. And I think we would, if we send the bill and copy the newspaper, at
We
least.
don't have to, we don't have to, if you want, it's just that our people want to get out.
Right, but I'm just saying that at least it sends a message to our
Right.
citizens that, hey, this isn't really our job, but we're doing it as a service, should be the county. And let them know, or put us on notice with them that, hey, we're just doing this as an add-on service, that if you don't like the way it's done, the county's one that should be doing it, that we'd be waiting. I don't know, it might be more PR or whatever than anything, but.
And should the people get to decide? Should the people have a question on the ballot? Do you want your roads plowed?
You can absolutely do whatever you'd like with it.
Because I think most people do
I
want them
can
plowed.
probably predict how that would turn out.
They're paying for them to be plowed already
Right.
Well, I know, that's why we should find out if they want their money to go to it.
Yeah,
by the county.
You get one more. Madam Chair, you get one more.
I'm sorry, Larry.
Totally
Oh.
agree. I wish the county would do it, but I also know this, you wouldn't have to conduct an experiment. You could simply rest assured this hour, if we got a foot of snow tomorrow and we said, hey, let's wait for the county to do it, the snow would melt long before the county doesn't even think about Grand Blanc. I've got relatives that live in Mundy Township, I've got relatives that live in Goodrich and Atlas, and their subdivisions, when it snows, if you're lucky, it's 7 to 10 days before a truck comes through there. And I like waking up to go to work and have my streets clear.
How do they get to work?
I
How do
agree.
they get to
Yeah,
work?
that's
I like
their
it.
problem.
Yeah, that's their problem.
But people move to Grand Blanc because they know we're gonna take care of it, okay? And they know we're spending this money, but that's why they move here. That's part of the reason I moved
And
here.
and
was the
that's part of their
schools
taxes too,
And
yeah.
also you're plowed out. Because I used to drive into Flint every day and I'd get out of here and then get stuck in Flint. But at least I was downtown.
Ultimately, it's a service we provide, and I just want to make sure that my department is providing a high level of service that we all expect,
Yeah.
residents, board members alike.
And I didn't want to be the one making the judgment call, because where I come from, we get 300 inches of snow, and
Right.
if you leave it up to me, that wasn't a snow emergency.
And I really didn't feel like it
Different
was.
environment out here.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I gotta put my
appreciate
boots on.
the
So,
position.
just so we're clear then, so if it's 4 inches, it's on a weekend, you're gonna plow, right?
If that's your desire,
Is that
yes.
what we're
I don't think
I
everybody
never
said
said
that.
Well, that's what
No,
I'm
that's
trying to determine
Yeah.
for him, because otherwise he's still in limbo.
I was all for that. I live on a private road, so I can't get out anyway, but for the rest of the people in town.
As a board member who was on the previous board that wrote that, I think the general consensus was, and again, it doesn't, the updated version isn't really accurate stated here, is 4 inches or more, we plow. If it's on a holiday, it's up to the discretion of the DPW director, or on a weekend, up to the discretion of the
Yeah.
DPW on how to handle that. That was the previous board's intention. Now, do all the research and digging you want, make any recommendations to us that you see, in my opinion.
I would go along with that. Leave it 4 inches or more, but leave it up to your discretion on the weekends
Sure.
and holidays.
Okay. I have no problem with that.
You get the credit, and you get the blame.
No problem with that at all.
And he
As long as we do a good job, there's no
And
blame.
Bill the county, Bill the county, put that in the policy. Serious.
If you want, I will send the bill to the county every year.
Well, can we just keep track of what it costs us annually to plow?
Absolutely.
And then we can decide.
That's what I say, it doesn't make any difference, if you don't wanna plow, then you
Right,
take
but
it.
I'd just like to know what the actual cost is.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know, Scott, I apologize, you asked for that before, and I don't think I ever got it to you. But
Sure, we have-
I do prepare 2 bills a year to the general fund. I do build the general fund for it, so I
Okay,
do have that information.
But it's very
subjective,
subjective is a good word, because we got equipment out there
right.
that we wouldn't own if
We didn't have
not
to-
but for,
yeah.
right? Okay,
That's right.
so, but that's enough.
You're right.
Even just looking at labor.
Yeah.
Which can be very expensive
Okay,
Sunday night.
thank you,
No problem.
okay?
Is that what we came up with? Did everybody come up with that?
I think I know the direction.
We'll update it and have it ready for Thursday, and we can probably just adopt the policy
Absolutely.
as trustee Anderson articulated so well.
Perfect.
Okay, so the board will then consider a motion to approve the increased allocation to the 2015 legal force contract from $175,000 to $300,000 to perform joint routing in addition to pipelining while making our annual sewer system repairs.
So each year, as you know, we have a very aggressive sewer cleaning and televising program. We take very good care of our sewer system to ensure that it's reliable. Each year, we send that document, the footage, over to Liquid Force, and they help us come up with needed repairs. We perform the necessary lining, which is basically sticking a liner in a pipe to seal any cracks that we might find. One thing that we have not done, to my reflection ever, is joint grouting, which seals leaking joints, basically in the sewer pipes. We're falling behind a great deal in our sewer system maintenance as far as grouting. Like I said, we've always taken care of the liners. I think I provided you with the documentation, what Liquid Force gives us on the dollar amounts of what they expect we should spend every year on that maintenance. This year, we do have a healthy surplus at the end of the year, so I'd like to increase Liquid Force's contract so that we can perform the grouting in the sections we're currently working in.
Is that,
I have maybe Scott, this is your question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the line item is 970, 152. And the budget we're going to approve Thursday is $175,000, and you're proposing it to go to 3.
Correct.
Where we
Well,
get-
that's for 2015. Your 2016, I still have it 175,000. The 300,000 is 2015.
Okay, so we're gonna have,
Expenditure.
we're gonna have to do an amendment.
It would be a budget amendment,
To
correct?
that, right?
Correct.
And there's money, you
Absolutely.
you have it, okay. So we'll get all that information, the lines where you're getting the amendment from, right?
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
very good.
And I
So
thought
you're gonna
I
leave it at
provided-
175 for 16.
Correct. I anticipate to do it year by year based on, this is always done at the end of the year. So I anticipate looking at it year by year at the end of the year based on where we're at budget-wise.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
So they line the pipe.
Correct.
Well, what's the grout for if they're lining the pipe?
They don't line, the liners stop at the seams. They don't go, they're just in the segments where the cracks are.
Can't they just go 2 more feet past the
I
seam?
don't think it works quite like that.
So
And
there's
I
2
don't know if
extra
Dan knows
liners
more about
So
the
there's 2
process.
liners that butt up at the seam then?
In general, you'll have a liner that's gonna take care of a crack in the pipe, and it might be a 20-foot length of pipe, and you may put a 4-foot liner in it. There's still a number of joints in that 300-foot section that may be dripping in different areas, that it's much more expensive to put a liner in than it is to grout that particular joint. So, 2 completely different operations.
so the line
No,
doesn't
no,
go
it's
through the
all
whole
done.
pipe, it just goes to where it patches.
You can do
It's a
full-length liners,
patch
but
there.
in general, we don't end up doing full-length liners, because rarely is the entire pipe
Oh, okay.
It's a different process, a different material, different preparation.
I was just curious.
But I'm envisioning if we don't do this, our pipes are gonna look like our parks.
Well, I'm not gonna,
Those big cracks.
well, that's a bad comparison, I think, all.
That's what came to my mind.
Yep.
I'm in favor of it.
One more question.
I'm sorry, Larry?
Oh, Larry,
Well, I guess my question, again, real quick, is, I'm not opposed to it, we're gonna spend this on a year-by-year basis. As I understand it, you do the sewer system pipe maintenance in sections, we don't do the entire township every year. So
Correct.
is the section of pipe that we're gonna do in this upcoming budget an older section of pipe, or are we doing this to newer? I'd rather save this money, I guess, for some of the older sections of the pipe.
Well, we're starting in section 1 next year, so it's an older part, it is an older part of the township. That will be starting next year. We've already done all the liners in that sewer system over there, so we don't anticipate a whole lot of problems, except for perhaps grouting. So next year, there may be no liners, but we may be able to do all grouting.
I just don't wanna route a
Absolutely.
pipe that's 10 years old and
Sure.
then next year say, oops, we can't afford to do that 40-year-old section.
And I don't anticipate that problem.
Okay.
So name a couple of streets in section 1.
Let's see, Orchard Haven, Sun Valley,
Okay.
I'm not even sure if Orchard Haven's in. It's basically, we'll start in the the northeast corner of the township, and we'll work west.
Okay.
And then we'll drop down to section 7, and then we'll work east. So we kind of do a zigzag to the township.
Okay.
Okay, last question. You're gonna do all this by December 31st?
They do, yes, they're very good.
Okay.
And some of the work may spill over into the new year, but it's still 2015 allocation.
Contract.
Yeah.
Very good.
So just one last question.
Mhm.
Once they do the liner, is that good for like a couple of years or 20 years or what?
You know, I'm not sure life expectancy.
20
years.
20-year anticipated life,
What's the anticipated life on a sewer?
100.
Sure. So it's gravity, there's no pressure on it or anything like that.
Are we getting to a point where some of the sewers are going to need replacing, or,
Just capacity issues, upsizing, that's it.
but otherwise our sewers won't need replacing for quite a while?
Sewers went in the late 60s, so we're 50 years into it, so we're another 50, and that's the part of this that helps that, is as you maintain them, it's going to increase the life of those sanitary sewers. If you just leave them alone, then they're going to deteriorate faster, so.
So it could potentially last longer than 100 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just, we look around the state where we have issues in Detroit and Flint with water and sewer systems, and they're
Absolutely.
finding wooden pipes in some of these areas. I'm just wondering, you know, if we're planning that far out as far as the life expectancy of the sewers.
Absolutely.
I
Question
won't be around, but.
question I had, you said the liners only last 20 years,
About 20 years.
but, so after 20 years, can you take that old liner out, put a new one in, or not? Or do you have to dig it all up at that point?
No, you can reline it.
You can reline it.
And that's the expected life of
Right,
it.
and they do go longer.
It's good, yeah.
But I'm just saying, if one fails, you can go and pull that one out and
Sure.
reline it, right?
I mean, and it's, the
So,
probable life of it is probably 50 years, but
Right.
20 years is what they guarantee.
but they have to be, because my vision, they have to be flexible, go down, and then they heat them up, and then they expand, right?
Typically that's a full-length liner where they're putting in the liner and heating it and expanding.
Right, but I mean, you can only get so much pipe down, because once you hit the elbow to get down where you're at, you know, if it's
You
wide,
can-
It's
you
a
can't make it
material
work.
that it's sprayed on. It's,
You see, that's why, that's what I thought. I
if
thought it
you
was
can
sprayed.
imagine grout when you're
Right.
tiling, it's the same type of thing.
Oh, okay. But that's why I thought when they were spraying it, they could spray all the way through the grout and everything, and make sure you don't have to do the grout, you just
Sure.
spray it in
But
there and let it expand.
Yeah, it is a different material and a different method. They'll actually bring in a whole nother crew to
I
do
know.
another machine, another truck.
So it must not work to do that lining through the joint, is what
Correct.
you're saying, right? I mean, they must have tried it.
Otherwise, they would probably make a lot of money on it because it's a lot cheaper
Yeah.
to do liners than grout.
Well, they're making more money this way because they're costing you more to do grout, so.
I'm guessing too, and I'm not an expert, but if you had a maintenance issue, you had to replace a section of pipe, and you had line through those joints, you're
Yeah.
gonna increase your replacement cost
I'm sure it would become more
to
difficult.
dig it out, yeah.
No, you just have to saw it. I mean, it's plastic, you just saw with a saw.
Well,
Anyway, I'm glad we're doing
Yeah.
that because we do need to maintain it so that we
Absolutely.
know it's gonna be fine, so.
okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Excuse me, the board will consider a motion to approve the McCandless Road pavement repair and chip seal project that we didn't do that last year. Total cost of the project is $106,000 and $561.74. And the cost to the township is $53,280.87, which comes from our 50/50 allocation from the road commission. The supervisor will execute the estimate, and the DPW director will forward it to the road commission. Yes?
Question, A, we need to do it, we should have done it 2 years ago, glad we're trying to get to it. Could you just remind me, what, was it from Saginaw to Vassar? Saginaw, Vassar, okay. That's all my question, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just that it's a temporary thing. I mean,
Yeah.
The way they do it, it's, I
It
don't know
keeps
how
it
many
from
years it's
completely
gonna last.
falling apart.
Right.
That's
Keep the
it.
pieces together
Yeah,
for a few
yeah,
months.
that's it. Mhm.
Madam Chair, just along that line, Genesee Road was done 2 years ago, and, you know, it was a new process. I hope that's the process they're going to use, but that road is still in pretty good shape
Mhm.
for a
Sure.
chip and seal. I mean,
Sure.
I'm talking about from hill to
Right.
making
Yeah.
road.
And I think McCandless is in a little bit worse shape than what Genesee was, but it
Yeah.
is a different process now, where they do pavement repair before
Right.
they just chip
Yeah,
seal over top of it.
that's a good process there. and
Absolutely.
I'd like to see us, well.
Well, Hill Road is the same way, right?
Yeah.
Hill Road's the same way.
Yeah, Hill Road, they did chip seal from the cemetery up to Door Highway, right?
Sure. Yeah, and the road commission has really improved a lot of their processes and a lot of their methods, so. I anticipate it to be a good fix. It'll at least keep our residents happy for a while, until we can afford to rebuild that road. Ultimately, the road needs to be rebuilt.
One comment, again, this is not my, actually, one resident told me, no, don't fix it, because cars speed too much and that slows them down.
Yeah,
I've
sure.
had a lot more residents want it fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure slows down the
I
traffic.
hear that more than you think.
Yeah, right.
I hear that a lot.
Mhm. Especially if you're along that one section of McCandless.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you. The board will consider a motion to approve the water department supply order of 500 MXUs for $62,500 from Aetna Supply, and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related paperwork to place the order.
This is a portion of our annual FlexNet integration order. This is a 2016 purchase. We would like to place the order now. We have very nice weather, so we want to stay on top of this program. If all works out, we'll be done with our FlexNet integration. Every home and business will have a new MXU on it by early spring. We're only going to be using a portion of the $100,000 that we have budgeted for MXU repairs or MXU switch outs. I did leave the $100,000 in the budget, but it could be allocated to another project in the future as we come up with those. But this order will completely finish out our integration program. We'll be 100% on our FlexNet system, and we won't have to send the technician out to read meters anymore. I think in my board report I did include in there how many were remaining in the township in the FlexNet. It looks like we have 871 old MXUs still out there. We've changed out a total of 6,706 throughout the township, year to date. So,
Over the past year?
over the past several years, not year to date, over the past several years. By early spring, we will be done.
So that's how many customers we have?
Yeah, if you add the two numbers together, that's how many water meters we have.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many was that? How many was that?
6,000, right?
It's roughly 7,500.
No, okay,
I'm sorry, not 7,500,
good.
7,100, Tony, we're good.
It sounds even better. Thank you very much.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, the board will consider a motion to accept the retirement letter from Police Chief David Stam.
Madam Chair, I asked to get this on there. You guys all received the email and the retirement letter from Chief Stam, and it will take effect on January 24th, 2016. I just would like the board to provide some direction to us on how you wish to proceed. Are we interested in using a recruiter, advertising it in-house, I just need to know what the board's direction will be as far as how we'll move to fill it. Is it to name an interim chief and form a committee? I just need some direction.
Chris?
I personally would like to try going with Terry McGinn again. He's the person that found us Dennis. He's very professional. He does a lot of police departments around the state. And that our police department used to use him too.
Yeah.
So and he was very reasonably priced. I think that he could find us somebody good. I'd like to go with that route. I liked how we did our group before. You weren't here for this, Dennis, but me and Earl and Mickey and David were on the committee where we sifted through people. That worked good.
Yeah, and he actually came in less than his bid,
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in less, a lot less.
because we helped out, and he said, because we helped out, he said,
Yeah.
he cut the bill, so.
That is, I think Terry, he served us well, obviously,
Mhm.
but have you made a decision that you're gonna go out for a search? Do you wanna look at, is it possible to consider in-house? Do you wanna have a discussion about?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I personally feel that we should consider everybody, in-house and out, but I think that we should open it up right away to everybody so that we can we need a really good person to replace Stam. We just can't pick anybody.
Yes?
And we may have some very capable candidates on our staff. I think that, by going outside, in addition to considering in-house, I think it just legitimizes, even if we end up hiring in-house, I don't feel it's a waste of money. I
Right.
feel that it just makes it legitimate that this person was hired.
Right,
After considering everybody that was available, we didn't just settle for somebody because they were in-house.
yeah.
I agree
So,
with that.
I would say let's go out, but I'm open to considering everybody.
Yes.
I think we need both.
Right.
Yes.
Just a quick comment. I wholeheartedly agree with Scott. I learned my lesson way back. I'm not going. But I I open it to everybody on the inside too, I agree with that. I do want to say this, that if you use Dr. McGinn's company, I won't be voting on any of that because now he's asked me to do some consulting with him, so I work with him occasionally.
Excuse me.
So I want that to be
Yeah.
out there.
Thank you.
And I would not take anything out of,
Right.
anything from that particular job.
Then let's definitely hire him.
No. Thanks.
Oh, just kidding.
And since we're talking about the police chief, I would like it if we could, I don't know if this is, I don't think this would be executive session, but I would like to discuss that we would want the police chief to actually live in the township. And if we take an inside candidate, that they have to be aware that we want them to live in the township. And it's an at-will position. And what I would hate, and I say at-will because a lot of these guys are at 18, 19 years. But I think we have to do it so that if they don't work out, that they don't revert back to their previous position, because that would be very bad for the next police chief coming in. And so, and even though I like a lot of the internal people, I think in fairness that we would have to let them know that it is completely at will.
And if it doesn't work out,
That they can't go
we
back.
have the option of just saying bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, they would be vested in whatever retirement they had, but I'm just concerned that it would be very difficult on a new chief if,
That'd be impossible.
Well,
it would be very, it would be very difficult.
I think it also makes a few other things clear too, other than, the next chief. So I concur
Yeah.
with
Right.
both those points. Residency and, coming back once you take that position.
Yeah, because any other candidates coming from outside, if we decide they're at will, which they are all at will, they would be gone. So.
Right, and since we did this with every other position in the township, every executive position, that I think we just have to be consistent. And, I mean, I would want because we have some decent people on the inside, but, they would have to take that risk.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of right.
I have another thought or question. If we're gonna do this, and it sounds like we probably are gonna go out, shouldn't we have an executive session either tonight or Thursday night to discuss what to put in the ad, the amount of money we're talking about and stuff, because we have to kind of get on this fast. January 24th is coming pretty soon. And we don't have a meeting at the end of the month.
What we did last time, and that, I was gonna ask about this, is we're not gonna have somebody hired, obviously, by the time the chief
No,
leaves.
but
So
we
what
should have-
will be our interim issue? Will we rely on the current command that's in place? Will we pick one of those to be an interim? Because as I recall, when we did it for the superintendent, we met as a committee, we actually wrote the ads. We had a pretty good description, and we can have a pretty good description for the police chief. But it took a little while to sit down and kind of tweak the ads and figure out exactly what direction to go. So I think you want to start with the committee, and then the committee can submit the job description and also the proposed scope of the ad and scope of the search, so that you don't have to, it came better from the committee to the board.
Is that how it worked last time? It went with the committee to the board? Okay.
We set the salary though.
I thought, yeah.
You worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
which I think we need soon now.
Well, yeah, and the board's gonna have to be ready for this stuff to come at them, but I think we ought to set up the committee maybe this week. And we've got a couple changes too. Obviously, we have Dennis now, who we can rely on greatly, and whatever other form you wanna take. It seems to me that we've got a lot of police resources in Chief Stam's experience, and obviously, Dr. Reardon's experience. Maybe we wanna reconfigure that committee.
I'm so good at Googling.
Well, you can't go because you work in Google.
Yes.
Again, and it's just my opinion, and I won't be on Thursday to express what I say tonight, is I think our captain, I believe, Captain Miles, is
there's two captains,
Mhm.
so you can't just, you have to decide, I
I'd like
guess.
to, how about the chief recommends to us?
Yeah, because like when he goes on vacation, which he has, he always picks somebody
Yeah.
to run the show while he's gone, so he would know who could.
Between Dennis
Who
and
could do
the
it?
chief, you guys, you know, but you're right, we need an interim.
We need an interim chief,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I would want an interim chief, actually.
And he could maybe pick him out really fast, so he could be like training them up a little bit more.
Well, I think he should make a recommendation to you, and then you should approve. the interim.
Yes.
See if he can do that by Thursday, because he probably knows in his mind, I would think.
We really don't need it until January,
Yeah.
but right, let him take time to think about it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'll communicate that
Yeah,
to the chief.
okay.
Yeah, interim chief, we would
Dennis
meet
will.
the first meeting in January, right?
So Dennis will communicate that to the chief.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can- Madam Chair, through you, Mr. Lane, can we, from a salary, I would hate to, I think we've shot ourselves in the foot before with putting a salary out there, and then we spin our wheels because we didn't pick the right. Could we get with the consultant and have them tell us what, or, give us a range that
Right.
we're gonna need to expect, right?
Mhm.
I'm all for getting the best bang for the buck, right? And we've done a good job, I think. But at the same time, we don't want to put our feelings on the salary and then we
Right.
just shut everything down.
Yeah, we can, that's one place where there's a lot of comparisons. that
Yeah,
we can do.
yeah.
So there's a wealth of resources out
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
from the ICMA
Yeah.
to, I mean,
Yeah.
just a MML, I mean, there's a wealth of resources that we can pull, and you can pull it in the demographics that you want,
Sure.
whether it's the
Yeah.
size of the community, you can do all kinds of things, you can do it on assessed value, tax value, size of community, in our local area, farther out, I mean, maybe we pull up a range of those, and that would at least help from a committee standpoint, then you guys can look at it and say, which one makes the most sense for our, setting our salary.
Well, Mr. Buckle's been waiting a long time for us to get to number 19,
So
so.
we're gonna take a break.
The board will consider a motion to accept the recommendation of the township's insurance representative to renew the township's insurance liability plan with Parkland. Come on up and tell us what Parkland is, Dawn.
Well, the Michigan Township Participating Plan started in 1984, and today we insure just under 1,700 public entities in Michigan. That'd be townships, villages, and cities. We insure about 89% of all the townships in Michigan. The proposal provided a $10,000 reduction in addition to the addition of 8 vehicles that we added during the policy period without a charge. In addition, during our discussions, we had input from the board regarding the dropping of the deductibles in the area of wrongful acts, employment practices, liability, zoning, and police. We were able to do that from $25,000 to the $15,000. There is an option, we got an email from Attorney Laddie about dropping it down even further to a $10,000, and we could do that for an additional $2,000. So whatever the premium would be, it'd be an additional $2,000, drop it down all the way down to $10,000.
That sounds good. Yes.
Per year.
Yes.
Okay, Larry, you had a
I
question?
just have one question on that, looking through the coverages, I guess. Define what host liquor liability is and probably need it.
Well, we have that if a lot of our communities, our fire departments and community centers have events where they're serving liquor. If you're going to have a dinner, appreciation dinner, you may have beer and wine. A lot of times our fire departments put on or are asked to be at a county fair or local festival to man a beer tent, or someone in the community is assisting in a festival, and they're providing
Okay,
for that.
so like a beer tent at our
Yes.
summer,
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
It's fairly inexpensive coverage for it.
It is, I was just curious as to, I know there's a lot of heavy drinkers on this board, and I'm saying ours are cashier, but I don't ever serving a single beer as a township board member here, so.
Make sure you invite me.
Yeah, no, that was purely sarcastic.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Buckle?
Well, we need to debate the 15 versus the 10. And,
25, that's it.
I'd like to ask if there's any other changes that, in the policy from.
We
previous-
added a policy, a coverage to the policy. We're seeing more and more volunteer labor or help in our townships. So, and they're not covered under the workers' compensation. So we included a volunteer accident policy. It provides coverage up to $100,000 for the first dollar medical cost of a volunteer's injured. There's a death benefit included in there. We've had cleanup days where people have been injured, helping out with dinners and what have you. So I don't know how you handle with voting people, so we provided this coverage.
Thanks, it's good coverage.
Yes.
Any other updates or changes to it?
No, and what's very unique about our policy is that instead of having a combined single limit like other programs, you actually have five separate limits, each with their own limit of $5 million without an aggregate, an unlimited aggregate. So you have a $5 million for your premises liability, your operations liability, your employment practices, your wrongful acts, your law enforcement, and your vehicle liability.
What's the per occurrence?
It's $5 million for each one with an unlimited aggregate.
Okay.
Mhm.
So to drop this to 10,000, the total cost would be 149-ish?
Is that the $2,000? Let me see.
Here, 147.
On the very last page.
You got the recommendation, Bob.
Yes, 149,816.
That would be dropped to 10?
Yes.
Okay.
and Dennis pointed out, I mean, we have the option of leaving it at 25,000 and we would be able to subtract 18,560 from the current number. So if you're happy the way it is, I think the premium would go down $1,800.
Just under over $1,800.
And we've had about 3 occurrences a year,
Yeah,
correct?
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we make that up on the first one.
Right.
And did you, by chance, the discussion, how do I say this? I don't think I can say it, forget it.
Do we have the option with regard to claims?
We
Yeah,
have that done, taken care of internally,
okay.
and I've expressed that to the township superintendent.
Part of our conversation when we met a couple of weeks ago had much to do about the issues that had brought some concern to the board collectively about making sure that they were well informed on any decisions moving forward in any litigation. And
Okay.
Mr. Bucko was able to assure us, in fact, the gentleman who was a senior claims analyst who was calling the shots in those decisions won't be calling those shots for you.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
This says premises medical liability, 10,000 per person. Didn't you just say it was a lot more than that? for
No,
volunteers?
premises medical payments, what that is let's say somebody slips and falls here, and we're not gonna prove any
Oh, okay.
negligence.
Okay,
And if the person says, you know, I'd be just happy, just pay for my out-of-pocket co-pays,
okay,
then we just go ahead and do that. It's more like a goodwill coverage,
okay, but if somebody's volunteering and
Yes.
slips and falls, they get,
up to $100,000 first
and
dollar.
then what's this sewer backup liability? Is that for within the township?
Yes.
I think we've
It
had
covers
that.
residents
Yes,
as well as.
residents or businesses as a result of a sewer backup or the township would be negligent.
Wow, what about cemetery professional liability? We might need that one. What's
We
that
have that
about?
coverage.
Right?
We've had some doozies. I mean, we've had situations where kids have gone down and basically, believe it or not, the headstones are in your care, custody, control. So we've had kids go by and knock a bunch of them down, damage them, and we've had to repair them and fix them. The one case I had in Oxford Township where a bunch of kids actually dug up a grave.
They what?
Dug up a grave and actually took the skeleton or body out. And you think that would be an easy one to fix, even though we found the entire remains. But according to the health department, you have to notify every possible living relative before you reinterr the person.
Wow.
So that cost $85,000
Oh my gosh.
to do that.
Sewer backup covers our own buildings as well as residents.
You have, yes, that's on the property coverage, you have your own sewer backup coverage. What you're alluding to was just a third party, yes.
Keeps on going on creek with the way it is, they're
Good.
gonna pull away.
Do we have a mechanical breakdown?
Yes, yes we do. Full policy limits.
How about
I'm in
data
favor of
breach?
10,000.
Excuse me, that reach, yes.
What about data breach?
Yes.
What's the limits on data breach?
And $100,000.
We're asking all these are all hypothetical
Yeah.
questions, but we're not
Yeah.
going to be claims.
Right, not anymore.
What's happened to other people?
Yeah.
What's our crime coverage as far as?
$100,000 during the normal business hours, during tax season goes up to $250,000, and then you have a $500,000 bond.
Is that on premise and off premise?
Yes. I don't know.
So we're else covered when it goes to the bank?
Yes.
I'm just taking checks, so it doesn't matter.
All right.
Take a different route.
They can take all the checks, nobody can cash except us.
One point, our policy renews, I think, January 1st, so we need to pull the trigger
Yeah.
on Thursday.
How about non-owned auto?
Yes, $5 million.
So part of the process too, we'd ask Bob if, should we be looking outside of Park Plan, there are other agencies out there, Michigan Municipal Risk, et cetera, MML. And so he did look into the other options that were available to us, and he did show us some of those options when we sat down with Director Zostak, myself, and Bob. I think that Bob's recommendation is very solid. We're staying with Park Plan for a lot of reasons. We have the history. It also keeps us connected to McGraw-Morris, who we're very comfortable with, and we keep that relationship going.
They've been very good for us, yes.
I think one of the keys too is that he's coming in with the premium being reduced by $10,000 and reducing the amount of the deductible, so I think it's kind of a key.
It's 15,000, right? Now we're gonna go with 10?
10,000.
We say our premium is $10,000 less than it was last year at all time.
Wait, is this for the 15,000 or the 10,000 deductible?
At 15,000.
That's 50. And you
But-
add 2,000 to go down to the 10.
Okay,
2009.
yeah, so okay.
Just another, on parks, does the Parks and Recreation have their own policy, or does our policy cover our parks?
I think that our physical park is covered by our
Yes.
policy.
Yes, it is. And your liability too.
And our slip and falls at the park and
Absolutely.
everything?
The senior center was covered, I think, as well, even though we own that jointly
Yes.
with the
Your
city,
interest is
because I
covered.
think we had a
Yes.
slip and fall there.
We've
Would the
had it,
library also? The library's owned by us.
I don't know the answer to that. It's called McFarland Library, Bob. I don't know if that rings a bell to you. I guess we'll have to double
That's an
check that.
additional building.
Owned by the
But we don't own
township.
the building, do we?
Well, we jointly own it.
We own half of it.
Well, your interest will be covered, we will respond, yes.
We don't
Okay.
have
Yes.
And the property behind it as well.
So if we're partners with the city, the library, for example, then we each share in liability, like each
Probably
liability.
be a pro rata, yes.
Okay.
And we respond on behalf of the township.
How about, I've got a strange question, but what about dog bites that occur in our park? Will we be covered?
If they could prove that there was some negligence on the part of the township, I mean, maybe the dog park wasn't maintained properly or something like that. Usually it would fall back against the owner of the dog. So,
Okay.
I'm looking through this and like for law enforcement liability, you got 15,000. Wrongful acts liability, 15,000. I'm assuming we're gonna change that to 10,000 if
Yes.
we want to.
mhm.
And then you have one here that's deductible per occurrence is 10,000.
As for the general liability, that's always been 10,000.
That'll stay at 10,000
Yes.
even if we go down.
Yes.
Okay.
The 3 to 4 areas we were talking about were the zoning, the employment practices, the wrongful acts, and the law enforcement.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of lowering it.
Me too, for sure, to 10,000.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we got it straight.
Sorry
for
Thank
going
you.
so far into the
Great.
agenda.
Oh, that's all
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
I warned him.
That's right. Thank you very much. Have a good holiday.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you too, thanks.
Yeah, well, it's- yeah.
They can find it.
Yeah, that's why you find it, okay. Okay. The board will consider adopting a resolution to amend the 2015 Master Campus Project Special Revenue Fund.
This is really just, at the end of the year adjustments that we make. It has to do with Kathy, with the bond refinance for the police department building, and we paid down an additional $1 million, and then we also had to recoup the bond, cost of bond fees.
Okay, so it's more of a accounting process.
Currently, that wasn't anticipated at the beginning of the year when the budget was prepared.
Okay.
So it was not included in the budget, but we're going to have to record it on the books, and it would cause our fund to go over budget.
Okay. questions from anybody? No? All right. Thank
Like
you.
we have the board reports.
That might have been a mistake, I might have copied off an old agenda, doesn't that just come on
Hmm?
Thursdays?
That comes on Thursdays, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I think it's great. Thanks for staying through all of this, Kathy.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
All right.
Support.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
See if somebody else wanted to jump in.
Okay.